August 24th, Select Board meeting. Can we rise, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And a couple moments for a moment's silence, please. Okay, thanks for coming out. This is Dave Harkless's first full meeting, so welcome and congrats. All right, so we will start. First thing on the agenda is approval of minutes, and we'll start with the July 27, 2026 Select Board meeting. Anyone see anything they want to change?
Look good to me. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as they are.
Thanks, Taylor. Got a motion on the table?
I'll second.
Paul second. Any more discussion? All in favor of accepting the July 27th minutes? Aye. Okay, unanimous, Vicki. All right, next we're going to be looking at the Select Board Work Session, which was on August 17th, 2026. So we accepted the grants. Any discussion?
Nope. I didn't see anything.
Okay.
I'll make the motion if everybody's all right with that.
Yeah, Paul makes the motion.
I'll second.
Dave seconds. All right. All in favor of accepting those minutes? Aye.
I'm abstaining, I wasn't here.
Okay, so 4-0-1, Vicki. Thanks, Ed. All right. We have about 9 items or so on our business, so we'll start right away here. We got the 2025 audit presentation. Oh yeah, by Cory Philbrick from Vachon. How do you say it? Vachon-Clukay?
Vachon-Clukay.
Did I say that right?
I think so.
Nice.
There's a
Welcome.
couple
Thank
of,
you.
I think they're both French.
Yeah, Vachon.
Vachon definitely is.
Yeah.
Hi, good evening. My name is Cory Philbrick. As Carrie mentioned, I'm audit manager with Vachon-Clukay Company. I've been with the firm for 13, 14, 15 years. It all blends together after a while. Been working with the town for roughly the last 10 or so. First as audit staff, and then later on as lead audit manager on the town's audit. I've got a brief presentation for you tonight. I'm going to go over some of our official communications that we provide to the board and the town at the conclusion of our audit. Touch on some financial statement highlights, go over a couple management recommendations that we had, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to stop me. Glad to discuss. I'm not going to go too deep into the financials themselves, largely because if anybody's looked at the town's financial statements, it's 50 some odd pages, and a lot of it, unless you're really into municipal finance, can be a bit heady in terms of discussion. So if anybody does have any questions, especially the board, I know you just got these drafts, feel free to either ask me tonight, or if you want to shoot me an email, a phone call, whatever's more convenient for you. Happy to discuss things further. So we provide a number of letters at the conclusion of our audit, and I'm going to step through them one by one, and then I'll touch on the financial statement highlights at the end. The first letter that we provide is a letter to the board. We refer to it as a governance letter or communications to those charged with governance. And what this letter is sort of a 20,000-foot overview of the audit process. We touch upon the professional standards that we conducted our audit in accordance with. You can use the term audit in many different ways. So financial statement audit conducted in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards is the framework that we use when we're conducting our audit. So it's kind of like the gold standard of financial statement audits. And additionally, what we talk about in the governance letter are areas where the board might want to place specific attention, either because things changed or they're just significant matters that kind of arose during the course of our audit. So some of the things that you'll see are new accounting standards that were adopted by the town. For 2025, the town adopted GASB statement number 102, which is over significant risk or certain risk disclosures. What this standard focuses on are the various concentrations and constraints that municipalities might be up against in their normal day-to-day operations, and specifically when one of those concentrations or constraints, and when I say that, I mean like, concentrations like a specific vendor that provides a material amount of your supplies, or budgetary constraints when you're dealing with like statutory limits on spending, when those might cause significant financial stress in the course of the next year. And when that happens, there's additional disclosure that now goes into the financial statements. There wasn't anything going on that triggered those disclosure requirements for the town for 2025, but it is still a new disclosure requirement that's in place, so that's addressed in the governance letter. We also draw the board's attention to significant estimates. And the reason we do that is that estimates by their very nature could change. They're oftentimes subject to management judgment. And so we like to draw the board's attention to them because they tend to be some of the more volatile numbers in the financial statements year to year. Specifically for the town, your major estimates involve your allowances for uncollectible accounts receivable, both on the taxes side as well as ambulance, those are your major ones. And then sewer to a lesser degree, as well as things that may not be thought of as estimates, like the useful lives on your capital assets, or some of the inputs that go into your actuarial valuations for various payroll benefits. Some other areas that we would draw attention to would be if we had significant difficulties in working with management. And that's one I'm happy to say that I've never had to report on, but specifically with your management team, they're great to work with. Troy, Lori, the rest of the team over there in the town offices, they really do a great job in getting us what we need, what we ask for in a timely manner, helps to keep the process moving along. And then if we have any material audit adjustments, we're required to present them as part of this letter. We take the approach of simply providing you with a schedule of all of our proposed audit adjustments. We feel that that gives you just a better feel for the scope of the work that's being performed as part of the audit. So the attachment that you'll have in that letter is more than just the material adjustments, really all of the adjustments. The material adjustments for this year really focused around timing differences, largely in the capital project fund, timing of recording certain payables and receivables, adjustments to some of those allowances and estimates that I previously discussed. And those would certainly be considered kind of more typical audit adjustments that we would come across in an audit of a town the size of Littleton. And moving on from there, the next report that we provide is our internal control report. And this letter is certainly a letter where less is better. You'll find that it's a single page. It's often referred to as a clean internal control report because we did not have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies to report on. When we conduct our audit, yep, that's it, always what you're shooting for. When we conduct our audit, we use a risk-based audit approach that goes back to that generally accepted auditing standards that I talked about previously. And with a risk-based audit approach, what we're doing as auditors is we take everything that we know about the town and everything that we can find out through looking at things like your annual report, past experience with you, talking to management, and we look at the types of activities that the town is engaged in. What type of purchases the town's making, what are your payroll benefit structures look like, what are your major revenue streams, and we use that to kind of develop a overarching kind of risk analysis of where the town's most risky activities would be. From there, through discussion with management, observation, and testing, we look at what controls the town has in place over those activities. What sort of review and approval do you have? What sort of budgetary reporting and monitoring are you doing? What sort of reconciliation processes are in place? Based on that, we determine what controls we're going to test, and we test controls over the town's major transaction cycles. So that includes your cash receipting, your vendor payments, and payroll transactions. And we'll test those usually on a rotating basis unless there's specific issues in an area, and then we may test much more frequently. This year, for reference, we were focusing primarily on vendor payments. And any deviations that we might know in that control testing serves two purposes. On the one hand, we use it to modify our risk assessment, so more risky areas tend to get more attention when we're actually testing the accounts and balances of the town. And then we'll also report those findings to the board either through internal control finding, a management recommendation, or in very severe cases, it could even result in altering the audit report on the financials themselves. So again, didn't identify any issues in our testing that required reporting in the internal control letter. From there, we have a third letter that we use, and we don't always have this letter. It sort of depends on what sort of things we come across throughout the audit. That's our management recommendation letter. This letter is really where we would communicate things that are less significant than what would go into the internal control. So this could be like a minor control deficiency, let's say, or it could just be a place where there's an opportunity to improve the town's processes. And so we had several items that we identified for inclusion in the management recommendation letter this year. The first is over the single employer OPEB, excuse me, census data. One of the town's benefits, and this is uniform across the state, you look at any municipality, they have this same sort of benefit. It's called a single employer post-employment benefit plan. Really, it's a long way of saying that retirees are allowed by state statute to remain on the town's health insurance at their own cost. Simultaneously, because the town is a town, they're not able to obtain age-adjusted health insurance premiums, which means that while indirect, that ability to remain on the town's health insurance raises the premiums on all health insurance plans. And likewise, for those people that are in retirement on the town's plan, they're paying less than they would if they were to go out and get a plan on the open market. That fact that they're paying less is viewed as a benefit. GASB, which is the financial reporting standard setters that set government accounting standards, says that that benefit represents a liability to the town, even though it's implicit. It's not anything that the town would ever have to pay, and because of that, you have to record a liability. Now, that's a long way of getting around why this is a management recommendation. So, because that liability is difficult to value, the town has to engage an actuary to actually provide a valuation study, and that's done on an annual basis to some degree. The actuary uses census data. The census data that was provided to the actuary this year was incomplete, and as a result, that initial valuation needed to be revised and updated. So really our recommendation here is just that the town develop a review and reconciliation process over that census data prior to it ultimately being submitted to the actuary, just to avoid any potential delays or having to have a reassessment done after the fact once the initial valuation is completed. The next recommendation that we have is over timely investigation of stale reconciling items. And this is an example of something that is internal control related, but in this case was very minor. During our audit of the library's cash accounts, we noted a couple of reconciling items that were clearly stale, old, outdated, and not likely actual reconciling items, probably related to errors, clearly trivial in amount. We're talking very small dollar amounts here. Not enough that it required any sort of audit adjustment or really any follow-up that was worthwhile, but more so just the recommendation that when doing cash reconciliations, and this would apply to any cash reconciliation that's being done, if there's old, unusual, outstanding items, such as a deposit in transit to the bank that's over several weeks old, that those things be investigated. Usually they're the result of just an error or oversight and corrected in a timely manner. That way, information that's being viewed is accurate. And then the final recommendation that we have, and this truly is a recommendation, is on collateralization coverage of the town's financial deposits with banks. The town has FDIC insurance over all of its deposits, and FDIC insurance covers up to $250,000 for checking, $250,000 for savings. Obviously, the town has much more than that on deposit with the bank. And so the town has certain collateralization agreements or subsidiary insurance policies in place to protect against those deposits over that federal insurance limit. What we found is that that additional coverage is tied primarily to the town's operating account. And so there's a number of other smaller accounts that, while they don't have a significant balance compared to the operating account, they're effectively uninsured or uncollateralized. Now, state statute does require that any uninsured deposits be collateralized. So as far as staying in compliance with state statute, certainly something that you would want to look into. And our recommendation was really just to engage your deposit institution to make sure that all of the town's accounts are kind of picked up when they're determining the level of collateral that you would want to have at any time. From there, we get into the financial statements themselves. So I'm happy to report the town received an unmodified opinion on all of its reporting units for the year ended December 31st, 2025. An unmodified opinion is often viewed as a clean opinion, and it means that the town's financials are fully anticipated to be presented in accordance with GAAP in all material respects. I say anticipated just because we're still in draft phase, but there's nothing at this stage that would cause us to believe that the opinion would be other than unmodified. Some financial statement highlights: total current assets of the town. So this includes cash, investments, receivables, prepaid items, declined approximately $684,000 year over year. That's about 7% annually. And the largest decrease was seen in cash and investments combined. Those two line items, investments went up a bit, cash went down a bit more, but in total they went down about $840,000. Now that sounds like a big number, but to put that into comparison, the town used $760,000 of fund balance to offset its annual appropriation. So really, when you think about it from what you budgeted for, it's actually not that big of a swing. Non-current assets, so this would be things like your capital assets, long-term lease receivables on the office space at the Newtown office building. Those increased by about $1.8 million. Largest portion of that increase was in capital outlays. So these are going to be things like the donated historic fire truck that the town received, the new office building that the town purchased, ongoing upgrades and repairs at the wastewater treatment plant, and various transportation and road improvement projects. Current liabilities, these are things like your vendor payables, your current portions of debt. Those increased by approximately $107,000 year over year, and that was really driven by the increase in some of the finance purchase arrangements that the town entered into during the year. And then likewise, the long-term debt also increased by about $124,000, and that was really just the net difference of scheduled repayments on the town's existing debt, offset by new issuances. I didn't touch on the total liability change, and really that's just because once that new OPEB valuation is obtained, that number is going to change. So there's really not a lot of sense in talking about it from a total standpoint. If we look at the governmental fund statements, governmental funds, these are really the funds that you're used to looking at on an ongoing basis. So this is your general fund, your capital projects fund, your sewer fund, and then your various other non-major funds. General fund ended the year with unassigned fund balance of $1.2 million. That's just a bit under 5% of the town's gross appropriations, which that includes amounts raised for school and county tax payments. National Advisory Council, state and local governments, and the Government Finance Officers Association recommends a range of 5 to 17%. So ended the year just shy of that low end range. The town has used a fair bit of surplus to fund its appropriations in the last couple of years. That's brought that percentage down a bit, and still has some non-lapsing appropriations that kind of carry over that also tie up that unassigned fund balance. So definitely in a position where it's manageable, and it has been an intentional decline in that fund balance number, but getting to the point that it's worth monitoring. You always want to be monitoring your fund balance, but food for thought. On the budgetary basis, the town had a total decline in fund balance of approximately $673,000. And again, the town budgeted for a bit over $700,000 use of fund balance, so that $600,000 is somewhat anticipated. Overall, the town raised roughly $189,000 less in revenue than it budgeted for. That was largely impacted by that change in the allowance for uncollectible taxes. And that allowance, again, it's a management judgment, but there's a few things that go into it. And one of the things that goes into it is, of the taxpayers that are uncollected at year end, has anybody entered into bankruptcy? And if they have, state statute says that you can't go after them in the normal way that you would in terms of liens or deeds. And so the town's hands are kind of tied, at least in the short term, in regards to its ability to collect. That allowance is looking at what's likely uncollected within the next year. So it's not writing the balance off, it's not saying that you're never going to collect it, just your ability to collect it within the upcoming fiscal period is somewhat limited. And so that causes the allowance to go up. In theory, in future years, if that got resolved and those amounts were collected, the allowance would come back down and you'd get that increase back. And that's really just, GASB requires a very conservative approach when it comes to revenues. And that's one of the ways that they make sure that a conservative approach is taken.
Cory, can I ask?
Yeah, definitely.
Who sets that?
Who sets the allowance?
Yeah.
So
Is that
it's,
accounting thing that your firm's doing, or is that something we're doing when we set tax rate?
no, it's not directly part of the tax rate setting process. It is something that more often than not, we're looking at as auditors because GAAP says you need to have an allowance.
Yeah.
The way to approach it is very much a management decision. Our firm has a methodology that we use for approaching it. And if management doesn't have their own method, we present that to them as one possibility, but ultimately it's management's decision on how to go about it. As far as the tax rate setting process, this is a place where state statute and the State Department of Revenue Administration, DRA, kind of differ in how they view allowances for uncollectible taxes. DRA very much views the allowance as overlay and views it as a forward-looking mechanic, where if you don't think you're going to be able to collect new taxes going forward, you should increase overlay so that you increase the amount of taxes that you bring in now in order to give you sort of a cash flow buffer going into the future. GASB looks at it differently. GASB looks at what have you already raised in taxes that you're not likely to collect. So you're sort of looking at current factors and then historic and setting an allowance based on that. The adjustment to that allowance happens to go through overlay. So sorry if that's a little kind of accounting jargon, but does that answer your question, Troy?
It sounds like the accountant set that number. It's not something we're doing, other than when we decide on overlay, there's a part of a role in that.
So yeah,
But I understand what you're saying.
in a perfect world, the two would align. Really you'd like them to be as close as possible because they both, while in slightly different ways, do reflect accrual basis accounting estimates. It's just, GAAP requires one viewpoint, and DRA, and I've had several discussions with them, they view it very differently than how GAAP does, which does create a bit of a contradiction because the state says you have to apply GAAP in your financial reporting. But then the state also uses it for budgetary purposes and then doesn't necessarily apply GAAP for budgetary purposes. So, I do have to be careful in how I present it because we can't make management decisions in order to be independent. That's why, we have a methodology that we use and we present it to management. If management wants to take that, that's fine with us. If they want to come up with their own estimate, that's fine with us as well, as long as that estimate appears reasonable based on facts and circumstances. On the expenditure side of the budget, the town actually had savings of about $442,000. So, kind of to recap, estimated revenues was short about 189, but expenditures on the appropriation side, you saved 442. So overall, while you plan to use about 700,000 in fund balance, you actually use significantly less. Well, not significantly, but a fair bit less than that. And again, that savings on the expenditure side was largely payroll related, just savings across the board, whether it's open positions or voluntary positional savings and the associated benefits that come along with those. So I know I kind of moved quickly through those things, but on behalf of Vachon-Clukay, I do want to thank the town for continuing to choose us to serve as your independent auditors. We know that there's a number of firms out there that provide financial statement audit services, and it's really a pleasure to be able to come up and enjoy a beautiful community while we're here doing the audit and working hard. So thank you for that, and thank you again to Lauren and Troy for their work and hospitality while we're up here and really helping to get us everything that we need so that we can get back to our families at the end. Any questions? Cory?
I just wanted to, if you could give us a summary of the component unit. Littleton Water and Light is still, I'm assuming, presented in the
Yep.
financial statements, but we are audited by the same firm, but separately with independent reports to the commissioner. So if you can just cover that,
Sure. So, and unfortunately, I didn't even think to pull numbers together for Littleton Water and Light, but so what a component unit is, as Lori pointed out, Littleton Water and Light is considered a component unit of the town of Littleton. Essentially, a component unit can be triggered by a number of different things. In the case of Littleton Water and Light, the Board of Commissioners that govern Littleton Water and Light are selected through the town's Board of Selectmen. Additionally, any general obligation debt issued by Littleton Water and Light is backed by the full faith and credit of the town. Those two things combined trigger what's known as component unit reporting, which basically means that the certain elements of the financial statements of Littleton Water and Light get pulled into the town of Littleton's financial statements. Specifically, if you look at the very first statement that actually has financial figures on it, it's a statement of net position. You'll see two columns. The left-hand column is the governmental activities. That's all of the town of Littleton's activities. And then the column next to it is the discretely presented component unit, and that's Littleton Water and Light. And then also on statement B, which is the statement of changes in that position, statement of activities, that statement presents the revenue and expenses of Littleton Water and Light in a section directly below the town of Littleton's program-specific revenues and expenses. And then again, there's a side column there. So it allows users, when looking at the town of Littleton, to kind of say, okay, you know, they do have this other organization. Should that other organization have any debt, it could be backed, or in theory, should be backed by the town's full faith and credit. So let me see what that organization is doing. In the notes, there's far less specific information about Littleton Water and Light. It really focuses on those elements that kind of are tied in with the town. So while the component unit doesn't have any debt issued and outstanding at present, were it to, that debt information would be included along with the town's debt information. Likewise, authorized and unissued debt, because for the same reason, is also disclosed in the town's financial statements. And then the capital asset activity of Littleton Water and Light is also disclosed in the financial statements. Really, the thought process there is that for the most part, when you issue debt, it's to build out capital assets and infrastructure. So there's a tie in there. Other disclosures like pension, OPEB, those sorts of payroll-related activities are not included because they're not the obligation of the town or really have any tie-in with the town. So that's why it's a very condensed presentation, but that information is there. And then there's also a reference to the separately issued financial statements of Littleton Water and Light, just to let the user know, hey, if you do want more information, you can find a full set of GAAP financial statements just by going to, you know, this location to find them. Is that good? Excellent.
Question on that. So it's a disclosure in the audit. It's not strictly a liability and a revenue on the town's line, but it's
Correct.
a related disclosure. Is that the correct way?
Yeah, I mean, it's in some ways it's like a related party. Although a traditional related party, you would have far less. You would just have a small footnote really discussing the transactions with that related party. With this, because there's a statutory tie-in, while the Board of Selectmen don't have direct control over the organization, they have an indirect control through their ability to appoint board members of that organization. And then again, that general obligation debt tie-in are what really require it to be presented, but it is presented entirely separate from the town. So their balances and activity don't get aggregated with any of the town's balances and activity or any of the town's disclosures. It's all presented separately and clearly labeled that this is the information of the component unit.
Got it, thank you.
I have a quick question.
Yep, definitely.
It seems like the stuff that's highlighted in this report is almost all having to do with the OPEB?
Yes.
OPEB. Is that because there's a change, or is that to bring attention to? Or?
No, that was specifically for you as board members, just to know that this is the information that's all going to be changing.
Oh, okay.
Most of the information that you're seeing there is actually last year's disclosure. You'll see there's a fair bit of disclosure that goes into it. And as opposed to updating it based on a valuation that we know is going to change, I just highlighted it to bring your attention to it because it is going to change.
Okay, thank you.
So Cory, just before we wrap up, you're here live, we've got some budget committee members here, we're gonna be working on budget soon and doing all that budget talk, fund balance talk. So you already stated this, but I just wanted to bring it back to everyone's discussion. We have a policy that you know that we're trying to maintain at a minimum 5% of the unassigned fund balance with a goal of getting it to 8%. What you reported this evening is probably when we see this, and we benchmark not against the audit, but against the DRA's tax rate setting forward. We're probably not going to see much growth. We're going to see it pretty flat.
How much did you use in fund balance, do you remember off the top of your head, to support subsequent appropriations in '26?
We only maybe had 2 warrant articles that we used fund balance. I don't think we were much more than 200.
Yeah, 226. So when DRA looks at the number, when they provide that number, that funding of subsequent appropriations, in your financials, it's assigned, not unassigned, because as of 12/31, you have a plan for it. When DRA does the tax rate setting and when they give you that percentage, that number comes down into unassigned. So your unassigned 1.2, realistically, it's going to look like 1.4, 1.5.
I thought we'd have some.
Yeah. When DRA does its calculations,
I wanted you to
that
say
percentage could be.
That was my assumption. I just, for people here that heard that our fund balance and accounting format.
It's one of the
down
joys
or remain flat, but when we see our DRA form this fall, I think you're going to see that it grew.
Yeah, when they do
Nothing
those.
substantial, but it grew.
Like beyond the 5.
It's going in the right direction.
Yeah.
You know, benchmarking against the DRA form.
Yeah, and to Troy's point, it's one of the joys of municipal accounting. You really have 3 different ways that you can account for any one transaction. Unlike a business where there's one way to account for it and that's it. So it really depends on, are you looking at things from a budgetary basis? Are you looking at it from a fund basis? Are you looking at it from a government-wide basis? And each one of those has kind of different intricacies. So on a budgetary basis, DRA, it'd be about mid 1.4, 1.5.
Right? Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Have a nice evening.
Yeah, thank you. All right, up next is Littleton Water and Light Wellbe Interconnection Report and one other, I think, report from Lori Hogan, the CEO of Littleton Water and Light.
Thank you. The commissioners and I are happy to report that we were successful in getting an SRF grant this year. We call it WellBe, or it's otherwise known as Lafayette Well. There's a well directly behind our facility that was recently permitted. So we've been trying to raise funds to interconnect, which is about $720,000. So we applied last year and did not make the ranking, unfortunately. But we applied this year and we actually got ranked 7th in the state of New Hampshire for priority of projects. And we're eligible for up to 50% of grant and then 50% loan. So actually, if I can, I'll just read the bullet points. Okay. You'll be seeing a warrant article because we need the warrant article to be able to accept the grant and the loan needs to be approved. There will also be a provision, Bureau of Rail and Transit application has been submitted and is going to need additional approval and information to be provided from Shore for that approval. The town is the owner of the land and LWL is the operator. So we're going to need some approval for that application to be approved. Typically, we don't borrow funds as Littleton Water and Light. But in this case, the SRS is a very low interest rate loan, so it would free up cash for some other of our system priorities. but also what it does is it projects need. Like when you apply for these funds, saying, well, we have a lot of need, we can't afford to do this, and then you come in and you pay your portion all in cash, it's like, did you really have a need? So, some of it's just making sure that we're sending the correct message. This is our first SRF, and I should say significant SRF that we ever got funded. So I want to continue the good trend. But also, too, we were projecting a second increase in the water rates that we had reported last year. And because of this grant, I would say that we would defer doing that in '27 and maybe just do a small cost of living adjustment, to be determined obviously by the commissioners, but that's my current recommendation for them. So the issue, the issue that gets resolved is we will now have 100% redundancy for our water system, which to me is huge. If we ever have a problem with the transmission line, we have enough permitted capacity to be able to meet the needs of the town, which is 500 gallons per minute. And we will be able to produce that through Brickyard and Lafayette well combined. So coming up, our recommendations is that we are going to have a warrant article to submit to Ms. Lori over there. And I have that, I'll send it right along to you. But we'd also request a vote to approve the town manager to be able to sign any permit applications that are, being presented by the Bureau of Rail and Transit.
Great.
And that's it.
Thank you.
Do you want to do these separately?
Yeah, maybe we'll discuss on this, we'll do the vote on having the town manager be able to sign the permits, and then we'll go to your second. Makes sense to me. Does anybody have any questions about this particular issue?
Just one little question.
Yeah.
Whole bunch of work was done on that recreation trail last year, and so you're gonna are you gonna go under it, or
Yes.
are you gonna put it back nice?
Yes. Do we ever do anything that's not nice? Come on.
Oh, I'm the new guy, so.
No, we're gonna be doing two. We're gonna be going overhead for power, which will not have an interruption to the trail. And we are gonna bore under for the water line. The interconnection is, well, there's a little ramp that goes up over the trail.
Yep.
Where the homeless encampment used to be.
Yep.
And so as it starts to go up, the interconnection's right there.
Okay.
So that's what we'll be doing.
And you're just gonna bore through the trail?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you won't even take the top
Down
surface
at
off?
yeah, towards the middle, because we
Yeah.
want to bring it down. I'm sure it'll be sloped. 10, 12? I can't remember the size of the pipe. I would
That's okay.
imagine it's going to be somewhere around a 10-inch or 12-inch, which it'll be a good sized pipe. Yeah, because we're doing like 190 gallons per minute off that well.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a good one. Yeah, we got lucky. And it was right in our backyard. Yeah.
It's fine.
Okay. Anyone else? Everybody comfortable with, we have to do a vote to give Troy the approval to be able to sign the permits, because they're gonna come in different times, and I'm certainly okay with that. Anybody?
Troy, okay with that?
Troy, you okay with it? I guess I should have asked you. Well, whether he is or not, you're gonna be signing this.
You just get a choice.
It's not optional.
It's not optional, yeah.
I'm not asking, we're telling.
If somebody wants to make that motion, unless there's more discussion.
I'll make that motion to give the town manager approval to sign permit applications as necessary as it relates to this grant.
Okay. Anyone want to second that?
I'll second. Or
Ed, second.
Ed, second.
Taylor, motion, second. And any more discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Okay, 5-0. All right, Lori, you want to do the second?
Sure, well, just as a segue,
Okay.
you'll be seeing a little bit more of me hopefully, because I just put in a Northern Borders grant application for more than $500,000. I'm doing a Federal Department of Energy for $2.3 million, and then I'm going for the Drinking Water Trust Fund. I've got 3 different applications going in. So hopefully I'll be announcing some more soon. We won't know until October, November on any of those.
Great, thanks.
So the next one is related to, I guess this is another grant that we received, was American Rivers. We have a dam that was built in 1960 at our intake at the northern branch of Gale River. And the dam is no longer used. And American Rivers has approached us to remove the dam. And we actually, the commissioners approved it as a two-phase project. They're gonna redo our intake, and then this year, and then next year, they're gonna remove the dam. Because if in an emergent situation, we could use the dam to get water into the intake. So we wanna make sure that the infiltration gallery is working properly first before they go and rip out our redundancy. Once again, the property owner is the town of Littleton. I've already provided a deed from 1905 to the town manager, to Troy, for their review. Because obviously the location of the intake is strictly confidential. The commissioners are recommending the project. We're going to receive new infrastructure at no cost, and it mitigates any exposure to Littleton Water and Light to potentially remove the dam in the future at our cost. That's okay, got it. I'm losing track of what I'm doing. So as part of the funding, North American Rivers approached New Hampshire dam removal and New Hampshire ARM funds. And New Hampshire ARM funds, as being one of the grantors, required a perpetual easement to the property stating that we would never touch the remediated area. Well, we can't do that. That's just not feasible. If our intake is not working and it's our only source, well, other than the back of the wells now, if it's our only source of water, we're gonna do what we have to do. And if it goes into that area, it goes into that area. So we negotiated separate language with the ARM Fund and Army Corps of Engineers that basically says that we don't have any stated intention to go into the area. But if something does happen, we would approach ARM and we would approach DES for proper approvals to ensure. So,
Okay.
so that agreement was attached. So what I'm looking for is permission for the town manager to approve and sign. We cannot do it now because it requires some dates of when the grant form is approved, and we don't have that yet. It hasn't been signed and approved yet. So it'll be something that we'll be doing fairly soon into the future, maybe late September, early October.
We can do a vote to give him approval to sign it for the future.
Yeah. This has been reviewed by legal counsel, your legal counsel, the towns.
Yeah.
And a lot of this wording came from the attorney because she wasn't very happy with the DES wording, so she rewrote it and they approved it.
Is the acknowledgement perpetual or just for the life of this grant?
No, it's, I believe, do I have a copy of it? It was my understanding the acknowledgement is perpetual.
But there's no easement being granted?
No, there's no
DES.
easement being granted, correct. That's what they asked for originally, but that's what we refused to do. Yeah. So.
Yes, Chandler?
I would just like to say that if we have any further negotiating that we need to do with the Army Corps of Engineers or DES, that we put Lori in charge of that. Because I've dealt with those bodies over many years. I've never once heard someone be able to disagree, much less say, oh no, we'll do what we want. Thank you very much.
She can be persuasive, that one.
American Rivers wanted to save the fish.
They also always want easements.
Yeah.
Right? It's an overreach, I think.
Yeah.
Always request easements, and in this case on town lands.
Yeah.
Good for you, Lori,
Yeah.
for pushing
Yeah.
back on it.
Close that deal as quick as we can.
Once you give it, you can't get it back.
Yeah.
You know?
And we are in a watershed protected area, so I think we've got all of our I's dotted and T's crossed on this one.
Great. Anyone else? Questions? All right, so we have to do like the last one, give Troy the,
I make a motion to give Troy the approval to sign the, let's make sure I have it right here.
the Aquatic Resource Fund, Mitigation Fund Project Owner Acknowledgement. That's its name.
Is that all the signing, just the acknowledgement, or is there more besides, is there a grant application? as
Yes, I
well?
guess more, and forms related to this. It wouldn't just be this form.
I think that the grant's gonna be under Water and Light.
So you'll, commissioners, or
Yes,
you will sign it?
Yes.
So just the
But
acknowledgement.
this is just because you're property owner.
Okay. Okay.
So it's about the touching of the property and restrictions on the property, so.
Okay.
All right, Motion to approve having Troy sign the acknowledgement letter that goes with the grant.
Okay.
Second.
Taylor second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, 500. Thank you, Lori. All right. Next, we have two people or three from Schilling to tell us about the Oktoberfest event, which is coming up in about a month.
Does everyone have a presentation?
Yes, we do. We have it in our folders. Thank you.
It's about. Need one.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Scott Bluni. I'm joined here by Nolan Barber, who works at Schilling. He's our New England brand representative, as well as Tim Egan, who is a consultant of ours who works with special big events and is generally a pretty okay guy to hang out with. We're here to talk to you briefly about Schilling's Oktoberfest and anniversary party, and also along with that comes a request for a road closure, which we'll get to as we get into the presentation. Nolan's slide presentation, I'm just going to kind of go into it today. The rough overview of what we'll be discussing is our team, our story, a map of what Oktoberfest is going to look like, the community and economic impact that we've had in years past and that we aspire to have this year, as well as safety. So first and foremost, I'm Scott. I've been with Schilling since 2021. I am presently our sales director, but I've done everything from dish pit to brew a beer to whatever, pretty much everything. Swiss Army guy. You want to talk about your role, Nolan?
Yeah. Well, started as his intern, thanks to Tim, 3 years ago, a little over 3 years now. But same kind of deal. I started from the bottom, doing dish pit, expo, hosting, you name it. Went to brand ambassador, representative, and now sales manager for Vermont New Hampshire, Maine.
I'm Tim Egan, I represent Sugar Hill. I'm an advisor to Schilling Beer Company. I'm also on the board of Catamount Arts, who utilizes the mobile stage for First Friday. That stage is also utilized for Oktoberfest.
So some folks that couldn't make it today, but are just names for you. If you're ever at Schilling or if you come to Oktoberfest and you see, there's photos of Victoria Thompson, who's our hospitality coordinator and brand ambassador. If you recall, she was here last year speaking with me, as well as Sarah LeMay, who's our general manager. So a little bit about Schilling, for those of you who don't know, Schilling is a family-owned and operated business that started here in Littleton in 2013. We specialize in the production of old school lagers, continental European inspired beer, Germanic beer, Czech style beer, but mostly lager beer, lower ABV, more traditional style beer. The name Schilling is the name of the owner's maternal grandfather, Dr. R.J. Schilling. He was a philanthropist who inspired the founding of the brewery. Schilling is presently recognized globally as a top 5 brewery, which is really wild. There is a rating system called Untapped, and we've been recognized for the last 3 years as one of the best breweries in the world. So our Oktoberfest is an anniversary celebration, but it's turned into much more than that. It's an opportunity for us to bring breweries that typically the North Country will not see into Littleton, give our local community a chance to try some of the best beer in the world. We have breweries from South America, Canada, Europe, all kind of, and all sorts of states in between, kind of coming to Littleton to show off what they can do and to be a part of the community for a day. This year's Oktoberfest, we will be featuring 50 breweries from 19 different states and 4 different countries. And that runs the gambit from, other lager breweries like us, and then some other breweries that produce, IPA and stout and other styles of beer. So we run the full gambit. Before the board is a map. It's the Oktoberfest site map. And if you recall, if you've seen Oktoberfest site maps in the future, it's going to look very, very similar. And the reason for that is because it works. That format works. The road closure that we wanted to speak to you folks about would be, you can see that there is a small area that's kind of boxed. It is part of Porter Street as well as part of Mill Street. And so just like the first Fridays that you've seen, that's kind of what we'll be requesting from you today. And actually, in front of the board is also the special events application, which I'm just realizing that appears to have been signed by all the lovely people in the town that need to sign it. And just to that end, I wanted to bring up something that we started this year based on feedback we've gotten from the community. Nolan is holding his hand written kind of acknowledgements and agreements with all the abutters that we could possibly interface with on the day of Oktoberfest. So our team went door to door and spoke to business owners and said, hey, just wanted to give you a heads up on this. This is gonna be happening. We know it happens the last Saturday of every year, but we wanted you to be kind of aware. This is what's gonna be happening. This is when it's happening. Let us know if you have questions or concerns. And so Nolan has in his hand basically every business that Schilling abuts a signature of an owner or a manager who is duly authorized to sign that, acknowledging that Oktoberfest will be happening. So everyone's on the same page. Yeah.
That's an important part, to make sure that there's always a relationship with the community. It's not an event, a standalone event, but it's an event that's part of the community and engages the community in an honest and open discussion.
Yeah, and part of the special events application generally is that we list all the abutters, but sometimes just, you know, having that extra conversation, we're hoping it can go a long way, because even last year there was a little bit of confusion. We wanted to make sure that we were, you know, everyone was on the same page. So that was great. And just to that end, you know, we always try to have local businesses. We offer local businesses tickets. We offer them to come down, be a part of the revelry. It's a ton of fun to be, when our worlds collide with the beer industry and then our local community all in the same place, enjoying the same thing. Last year, we were able to donate $17,000 in charities from our ticket proceeds, which was awesome. And a big chunk of that went to local charities. This year, the charities that we'll be donating to are Adaptive Sports Partners, Littleton Area Mutual Aid, the Bancroft House, and the Michael James Jackson Foundation. Those first three are kind of Littleton North Country based. That last one is a scholarship fund that allows people who don't have access to learning how to brew or hospitality or how to distill. It funds grants for them to get into that kind of work. Yeah, we've invited all Main Street businesses to join and to attend Oktoberfest. Last year we had 30 local businesses come and join in on the festivities. So last year we had approximately 2,000 guests hailing from 21 states across the US. We also had ticket holders traveling from Canada, France, the United Kingdom, Austria, and Mexico. We had about 130 volunteers that all pitched in, and that was tremendous. Like I said, we were able to donate a good amount of money to the local community. That's really all I had, and part of this, really, the reason why we wanted to come to the town is to make the board aware, to speak to the community about it, and to also, you know, the road closure is a huge part of it. We wanted to make sure that you guys had your eyes on it. So I think that's all from. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, these are like a little janky. In the history of us doing Oktoberfest, we've had no arrests. That's something I always like to talk about, because people always assume beer festival with a lot of boisterous, maybe slightly intoxicated people. We haven't had any arrests at Oktoberfest. So we've had a couple of people that had to be removed for being a little boisterous, but yeah.
And I think an important part of the safety plan is the road closure that ensures that no traffic comes down Mill Street, which protects those not only enjoying the Oktoberfest, but community that might be out there. Nowadays we have to be conscious not just of local traffic, but of those that might want to cause harm. So I think that's a wise use of the road closure. Questions?
Sure. Anybody
Well,
from the
you
board?
probably want to ask for a vote to close Mill Street,
Yeah.
Porter
Yes.
Street, and Lot.
And Lobby. Yep.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that, but any other questions before we do
Just,
that?
I'm assuming the chiefs, you guys have reviewed this and don't have any concerns? Or no?
We're still in a review process, but we have no concerns.
We've worked with Schillings before, they've been great partners, it's a great event. We'll work through the details.
That's a good question. Yeah.
I think it's a great event to have here in Littleton. It is, like you say, you bring people from all over the country and from the world to Littleton to get a view. And for those of you who don't know, that almost every can that Schillings sells has a description of Littleton on it. So it's pretty good advertising, I think, you know.
You would like can, I always drink there.
Never made it.
A little bit of Alexander would be nice to bring to the meeting.
It's just
My
interesting.
all-time favorite.
Interesting enough, we travel so much for work. We get to represent the company as we go to beer festivals, open up new markets. We distribute in about 15 or 16 states at this point, fairly consistently.
Wow.
And when I go anywhere and I talk about Schilling, one of the first things inevitably that I hear is, oh my God, I looked you up on social media. What a gorgeous looking town. I'm like, come visit, come visit. It'd be awesome to have you. So yeah, definitely cool.
Everybody knows Schilling. Cool. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. There's one question. Go ahead, December.
Yeah, actually, I just had a couple, does Schilling obtain a beer and specialty festival license for the event?
Yes.
Okay, and to my understanding, Chapter 5, of Littleton Ordinance Chapter 5 for public drinking, the select board or designee has to give permission to allow drinking on public property, on Littleton town property. Has that process been completed, or who from the select board or a designee gives Schilling permission to?
Do it as a vote if we have to. Do we have to do that?
I haven't noticed it in the past, so that's why I'm asking. It's, you know, if I understood the ordinance correct, you know, there does need to be permission for drinking on town-owned land, and Mill Street is town-owned land, so curious.
We do this as an application.
That is in the ordinance. So
You
you
can
can give that permission to her.
Yeah,
you could just
we can add it onto, thanks for
What
sharing.
exactly, where would the public drinking occur? Just on
Just,
Porter
Porter and
the
Mill.
three streets, not the three streets that are proposed? Just one of them, Millwood.
Well, no,
No.
Porter and
There are two.
Lot B.
So
that's
if you
that's
have-
where it should be.
Yeah.
Make
But it's a
it-
ticketed event, so there must be
Yeah.
some access
So there's
control
that, yes.
for
It's snow fence.
people of age and ticketed.
but we can add it to our,
Yeah.
the thing about our vote. We can vote to close down Lot B, Porter and Mill, and then give permission to,
I
for
think
public.
it's a very good point that's been raised, and but I think
It's
in
good
the past, it's just, I think everyone's probably been aware that closing the street was gonna have public drinking in this area.
It's actually Mill Street too, because there's some place that is covered by the
Just say all
snow
three.
fence. So I would say the area designated as what they, but also on their plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Chief. The event that you could, when you look at the special events application or the maps that we provided, that Oktoberfest area will be completely snow fenced with a security team that we work with that roams. So there's one point of entry, and then everything else is a closed off liquor licensed area. So that includes part of Porter Street, Mill Street, and Lot B.
Yeah, we're not a town that allows for the, what is the term for the
Social distancing.
social district? Yeah, it was something that got brought up once.
They do
and
have that, right? It's
A
allowed.
couple towns have it now, I think Laconia and Portsmouth.
I know Laconia.
Laconia has it, so that might be something in the future, we wouldn't have to do it for every time, depending on, it would be voted by, it wouldn't get voted by us, would have to go to the people, but for the sake of tonight, let's just add it to, whoever makes a motion, let's add it.
All right?
Are we ready for
Just
that?
a safety question, just a quick safety question.
Okay.
Just because they, you guys have advertised the unlimited, certain admission tickets get the unlimited tasting pours from 50 vendors. So what is the control of if someone, you know, is deemed as overserved at one particular vendor? How is that relayed
We got that answer.
to the other, like how is that taken care of so that that person is known to be not served anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let him in.
Yeah, so all of our volunteers sign a waiver effectively saying, and we train them the day of Oktoberfest to look for signs of intoxication. In addition to the fact that we have all these volunteers looking for the signs of intoxication, we have section captains that are team certified and oftentimes MTS certified managers from Schilling that are actively kind of observing the area. In addition to that, we have a uniformed police officer that is typically there throughout the day to assist, and then we also have a private security team there.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. No, thank you. I was just, nothing against the event, just want to make sure that the community,
Of course.
and the people attending are safe. So
Yeah,
I
of
appreciate it.
course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What is the date?
September 26th.
Good point.
September 26th.
September 26th.
Of course.
All right. Any more discussion from the board before we do a motion? Read a motion. All right,
So the motion,
the 3 locations
all
to
right, so
close
we'll
it.
make a motion to close the Lot B, Mill, and Porter,
Mhm.
and apply, what's the ordinance standard we're applying to that same space that we had to do? We should probably be more formal.
Drinking on public land?
Yep,
Yeah.
that we giving permission for that event.
Giving permission for that one event on September 26th. That's the motion.
Yep,
Can we add, subject to approval, Chief Smith, Chief Miller, because there's maybe other conditions, unless you've already signed off on it, guys?
We have you can if you want to, but we have the form that, we require them to fill out. and if
the
there are any
special event
issues,
form.
We take care of that, so.
All right, no worries.
Okay, so that's the motion on the table.
I'll second.
Ed seconds. Any more discussion about it? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, 500. Thank you for coming. Thanks for
We'll
coming
see you
in.
guys on Oktoberfest. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, great. We're about halfway through business. All right, next is December, Russ, with the community garden discussion.
Thank you. So my name is December Rust. I'm a Littleton resident, and I have volunteered at local places that handle food insecurity, and I've also utilized some of those organizations as well. And as much as, there's so much support in this community already in supporting those pantries and food insecurity organizations, but one thing that we really don't have on a steady basis, a lot of is fresh produce. That's something that, low-income people, classified as in poverty, it's something that when you're trying to make meals, it's not always the most cost-effective thing to be able to get produce. So in reading, recently I've been reading some Littleton history, and I haven't found yet where there's ever been an actual Littleton community garden where community members can, for a nominal fee every season, can have their own plot, and they can go in, and if they want to plant whatever vegetables, they want to plant some pollinators, they maintain that one plot, and and then what it does is it provides the opportunity for a lot of aspects. So I'll kind of go through here. I don't want to miss anything, but this is something I'm picking this up on my own. It's my own. It's not. I mean, it's my initiative to bring forward, but this is going to take a lot of effort by a lot of people to pull off. So I'm kind of here to present to the select board and to the public, get it on record, and then hoping that I can build some interest in this over the winter, and we can go forward. So the purpose of the Littleton Community Garden is to establish a welcoming, sustainable community space where Littleton residents can grow food, share knowledge, build relationships, and contribute to the broader community. The project is currently in its exploratory and organizational stage. The purpose of presenting the initiative to the Select Board is to introduce the concept publicly and seek the board's support for continued exploration, encourage community participation, and begin identifying the partnerships and resources necessary to make a community garden a reality. I've already spoken to a couple of organizations, and there is one Littleton organization that would be interested in purchasing or renting a plot for the season, because within the organization they have clients that deal with food insecurity, so they would love to maintain their own plot to be able to help out their clients. So the concept would consist primarily of individually, either raised garden beds or plots, depending on the property, depending on how the soil is, in Littleton, for Littleton residents, for a nominal seasonal fee. And I've been throwing out, just because many years ago I was part of one in a different municipality, I paid $10 for a season. I got a 10 by 10 plot, and it was amazing. So $10 is a little unrealistic for nowadays. That was 16 years ago. But this is intended to be a nominal fee so that anyone who's a Littleton resident can go ahead and have a plot. The fee would not be intended primarily as a source of revenue. Rather, it would offset recurring expenses associated with water, soil maintenance, tools, supplies, and administration while keeping participation affordable. And the eventual design would depend upon the location selected, available space, accessibility, sunlight, water access, community interest, and funding. So potential components include individual garden plots or raised beds for residents and organizations, accessible raised beds designed for gardeners with mobility limitations, because we want everyone to be able to be involved. So that would obviously dictate to how the structure of the property is laid out so that anyone can be involved in this. The eventual design, shared pathways and gathering areas, a small tool shed for shared gardening equipment and supplies, water access and appropriate irrigation, composting and other sustainable gardening practices where practical, pollinator-friendly flowers and plantings, and educational and community gardening opportunities. That's one of the big benefits I see with this, is that it gets neighbors seeing other neighbors that maybe they don't normally get a chance to see. It gets our community interacting with each other over a shared need. We all need to eat. And I love fresh vegetables, and I'm sure most people do. So, that's something that, being able to enjoy that, being able to be a part of that, and also it's something that can be started before the growing season. So it can start indoors. We have long, cold winters here, so this is something where, because of different mental health issues and things, this is something where when that seasonal depression kicks in and we have sustained winters, people can start growing indoors. We can offer seed packets and different things so that it keeps the excitement and just something to look forward to, being outdoors, being in the sunshine, growing. There's something I find very satisfying about growing. So I'd like to share that with the community. So the plots would be maintained by the gardeners themselves, but the community garden would reserve 2 or 3 plots depending on the space, and we would maintain those for distribution back into the community. So whether it's the Dinner Bell over here at All Saints, or whether it's through Llama, or the Reddington pantry over there, or over here at the Little Free Pantry, all of that food would be dispersed back into our local community so that people would have that opportunity and a chance to eat fresh vegetables. So they'd be maintained collectively by the community garden organization and volunteers, rather than actually our plots, and rather than being leased to individual gardeners. So there's quite a few different benefits. Local food access. Residents without suitable gardening space in their homes or apartments would now actually have a space to grow whatever they wanted for vegetables or pollinators. Dedicated community plots would produce fresh vegetables and herbs for local pantries, meals, organizations. Community connections, like I talked about, this is a place for residents of different ages and backgrounds and levels of experience. Maybe someone's a little more knowledgeable than someone else. This is a great way to start teaching each other, pass along skills that maybe we don't possess. And maybe we actually want to learn it from a human being rather than trying to find out how to do it online. So this is another way to promote real human connection and a connection to the ground, because before we had the grocery stores and everything, that's how Littleton used to do it. Everything used to come out of the ground right here locally. The education aspect, it would be a great place for workshops and programming involving gardening, composting, food preservation, pollinators, which are very important to our ecosystem, nutrition and environmental stewardship. Health and recreation, gardening provides outdoor physical activity and another form of recreation within the community. I know that there are mental health organizations in Littleton where they are looking for public space where they can take their clients and go and have conversations, or take their clients and go and this would be another place where you have maybe a bench or two, so people could sit and enjoy the garden. If they didn't have a plot there, it doesn't mean you can't be there. Just this would be a place welcome for anybody that wanted to go in and enjoy the space. And intergenerational participation. That's the beautiful part about this too, is it provides opportunities for children, adults, and older residents to all participate in the same project. It's not just a a game night for adults or game night for kids or whatever. This is something where everyone can be involved in the process. I am presenting on the 15th of September, coming up here at the Public Library, starting at 5:30, a community participation presentation. So I've in the McClure program room downstairs. I'll be there discussing with anyone who's interested. This is totally open to anyone who wants to be involved. At this point, this is totally exploratory and it's in its infancy. So it's ideas. I want, it's not just ideas coming into me. I want to be able to pull together a bunch of interested residents and all work together on this. So I may be leading this at this point, but this is something that's going to take more than just me going forward and me leading this, because these types of projects need a strong internal organization so that they last throughout the years, and that would be the intention of this. One of the beautiful part about this is there's the chance for community partnerships. Like I spoke about, there's one organization I already spoke with that is interested in their own plot. All of the questions essentially are still there to be answered. There's the idea on this is, I can't say it's not. My design idea would be with zero or very little taxpayer impact. What I mean by that is that either through grants, donations, this is going to be a volunteer effort, and then hopefully I can find a landowner who'd be willing we can work out a trust so that this could be something that could be established and then saved within the community for generations. This isn't something that should just be built and then goes by the wayside. This should be something that's thought of 100 years down the road, is how are we planning so that this can still remain here, isn't a burden on taxpayers, and where there's actual steps to be able to ensure that. I've already spoken with Riley Clark, Parks and Rec, and she definitely shared some concerns as far as, because Parks and Rec now, they take care of all the green space, that's the town-owned land. So the idea of this is not to add any extra burden on that department or anyone over there. Not that they can't be involved, but it would be to actually have all the volunteers that are on the garden group that would take care of everything. So doing that, again, not that Parks and Rec can't be involved in it, but this is not adding another green space for a town department to worry about managing or cleaning up or overseeing or any of those aspects. So at this point, what I'm doing is I'm asking the select board. I'm hoping to express support in the continued exploration of establishing a garden. Encourage appropriate town departments and officials to participate in discussions, regarding feasibility and potential locations. Help where possible to inform village residents that the initiative is underway and that public participation is being sought, and to support the broader goal of creating an accessible, sustainable community resource that promotes gardening, local food production, community engagement, and food security. So, this isn't, asking for, your undying, support, at this point. I'm not asking for financial support. I'm not asking for town land right now. This is just, I'm asking the board for support in the idea so that, there's some buy-in into it. There's at least the support buy-in aspect of that, so that when I'm talking with other community members, that there's an understanding that that there's more than just me interested in making this happen. And I would hope that, this is an aspect where we don't have anything like this, where the community itself is actually involved in the planting, involved in the growing, involved in the harvesting of their own food plot. So this is something, this is a community initiative that isn't just about food, but about mental health, about community camaraderie, about just neighbors working together. And so that's what I'm kind of asking the board to at least support the idea going forward, and I'll bring back more ideas to the board as they develop. That's kind of what I'm here today to talk about. Yes.
So, first of all, I have to commend you, this well-written proposal. I mean, well thought out. And it really interested me. So I did a little bit of homework myself, and I somehow remember there was a small community garden attempt, I would say, at Remick Park.
Oh.
Probably 12 years or so ago, and it
That's
wasn't
right,
very
for
big.
sure.
That's correct.
Oh, okay, well, okay.
But it didn't happen. So then,
Oh.
I did a quick search, and I found out there is a community garden quote up at the Daughters of the Charity of the Sacred Heart of Jesus.
Yes.
And I was like, wonder if they're still doing it. So I got on my bike and I rode up there this morning.
You're a go-getter, Dave.
And Sister Monique was up there, and they happened to be harvesting at the time, so of course they put me to work. But
You weren't getting out of that.
no, but I was washing barracks. They have a great thing going, and I wanted to make sure that it wouldn't be something that what you're looking to do was going to anyhow step on the toes of that, or whether it could collaborate together or not. And Sister Monique took a lot of time to explain the whole thing to me. They have 3 acres up there that they're working on. It is a community garden. They take all their produce and get it to all the area food shelters.
Yes.
To the tune of 3 tons per year. It's like, holy cow. No pun intended. So I think your idea is a great idea. Finding a place and sustainability are my only concerns at all. Everybody, will have to take their turn to do something, and then, then what do you do with it? But I think it's a great idea.
All right, well, thank you. Yeah, so I definitely want to step on the toes of Sacred Heart, what they have going on up there, because a news article that I read was like 10,000 square feet or something like that of space. So
Yeah,
but
a community person can't go up there and get
Correct.
a plot. So
yeah, that's the reason why I went this route.
Yep.
And actually, the history I've been reading. So I'm glad. Thanks for the update on 12 years ago. I'm reading John H. Colby's Crossroads of the North Country book that was published in '84. So it covers like 200-something years of history, but not the last 40, unfortunately. So. But yes, this wouldn't be to step on their toes at all. This would be the sole purpose is to get the community involved in the actual gardening itself. So that's, which, I mean, again, not that this isn't a criticism of what they're doing, but that this would be different than what they're doing. This would be where, someone who rents an apartment here in Littleton, or someone who owns a home but doesn't have the space for gardening, or perhaps the ability to till up their land and make a plot. This would provide that opportunity for the community to be involved together in it. So that's the idea. It's not definitely not step on toes, and that's why only 2 or 3 plots. I mean, depending on the size, that's where the community garden would give back. Again, it's not to step on toes, but to add to what's already being given. And I know that they have a robust program in the way that they preserve over the winter, preserve it to make sure that it gets out to people. But this would be a way, again, for teaching food preservation. This is a way to get actual workshops so people can understand. Oh, I can how to canning, how to preserve some of these items. So this is a bigger bigger concept to be able to get everybody involved instead of just. So I appreciate the information. Thank you.
Any other discussion from the board, and then I'll see if there's. Do you?
I don't know,
All right, go ahead, Lori.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, wait.
I was gonna tell them about this is a charity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they had a really good thing going for a long time. It was great.
Lori?
Also, don't forget the impact to children too. Children to be able to get their hands in dirt and learn how to grow vegetables and be fresh, and
Yes.
that's an invaluable experience. When is your next one that you said you were going to hold?
It's September 15th.
Oh, okay.
5:30 at the public library, and not to, the Sunday share. He also has an email going, and I'm gonna share it, Littleton Community Garden at pm.me. We've emailed a couple times. One thing about community gardens, I've lived in towns with them, is also if the burden of taking out a garden yourself, but the thing with community is if you're on vacation, someone else will water your plot.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of shared experience.
And I'm sure we're happy to have the conversation on water.
Yeah, that was, you were on my list, Lori. Just talking about, how we can, depending on where the, what property.
Yep,
I mean, there's a lot of logistics.
There's lots of steps to
There's
go
a lot of
to.
steps, and this is, I'm not
Yeah.
coming to the board with like all these
Yeah, yeah.
answers, but it's to get the ball rolling and, yeah.
Go ahead, Tim.
And since I'm not a resident, I'm actually speaking on behalf of my client, Eminster Community Health Center. We actually have a food as medicine program and a cook together program where we're trying to educate low-income folks how to cook better using food from the food pantry. So I think this would be of interest to our CEO, Ed Shanshala.
There's a lot of
some interest
people,
there.
yeah. They come to the senior center and do like cooking classes from
Right,
that.
and
group,
personally,
yeah.
I had a Victory Garden when I lived in Boston for 12 years. So this
Yeah.
is in that logic.
So I think,
we get funding from Northern Borders.
yeah, there might be some
Sorry?
funding.
Didn't they have grant funding from Northern Borders for the teaching kitchen?
Yes.
So there might be funds.
I think there are
I don't know
a
if
lot
there's
of
funds left
interest.
over that could.
So I think what
Ed knows how to find money.
Sorry, I think what you're looking for is just something from us to say it's in the early phase and feel free to continue to explore it more. I don't know that we need to do a motion or vote for that, but I mean, is that the general consensus? No one's like, stop.
No, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so I think that's what you wanted was support and, keep going and talk to a lot of community, you are already, I know you are already talking to
there's so many more
people.
to
Keep
talk
talking
to,
to community, I mean, the co-op, there's so many places out
Yes, I've
there,
already been talking to
nonprofits.
Becky.
So, I think if we're good, thank you for the presentation,
Thank
it
you
was
so much.
really well done, and I think we're all in agreement, correct?
Yep.
To,
Yes,
keep
okay,
exploring.
appreciate it. Okay,
Yep.
and I'll be back with more information.
All right.
There's a Facebook page too, the Littleton Community Garden, so I mean, it's.
So reach out to, reach out.
Feel free to reach out with questions and come to the September 15th meeting. Thank you very much for your time.
Sure,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great, so we have a public hearing, which we're popping in right now. It is to, I will open it at 6:21. It is to accept, I'm just gonna read it. All right. Accepting and expending community development block grant funds in the amount of $500,000 for the Littleton Community Center project, which is where we are right now. So I opened the meeting, and do you have anything more to any information? Troy, it's pretty self-explanatory.
No, this is the first, obviously the grant application was written. We had a public hearing actually through that process, and they're the one that came up that night supported it. It was submitted, awarded, $500,000 for renovation for this building and the carriage house. And so this is just our responsibility in accordance with state law to accept it upon receiving input from the public. So that's.
And I know all of us have been part of these discussions, and I think so. Any questions or comments, and I'll bring it to the public if there's
Quick
not.
question.
Yep,
In
go
terms
for
of
it.
timing, if we accept this and we take another $500,000, where do we stand then in terms of getting all of this done? Is there still a gap?
I don't know. So this grant it's going to be managed by the North Country Council. This grant application did have some other matching funds, which I believe the report we had was that they actually had received all of them.
They've got the matching funds, but they're still trying to do some fundraising for some other things, but I believe they have the matching
No tax
funds.
dollars.
No tax.
Not ours, but our federal tax.
Somebody's.
Yeah.
Somebody else's tax.
Right,
Well,
right.
really ours actually.
Yeah, yes.
None that we control.
I think that's an important point for the public, is that this particular grant program, which is federally funded, only the town could be the applicant.
Right.
And so we are allowed to apply and receive these grants on behalf of other eligible.
And this was the grant where we had that, I can't remember her name, that nice woman that came and
Yeah.
said, Littleton, there's some other grants that you guys should go for because you are,
Back in January.
Yeah, I can't remember her name, Katie or something, so. All right, I'm gonna open it to, does anybody have any questions or? I mean, it's a grant,
Actually,
so.
what time is it?
I already opened it, I opened it at 6:21.
6:21.
Yeah, I did open it at 6:21. All right, we can, I figured it would be really quick, so we don't, okay, so we're going to close it at 6:24, and then I'll take, there's a motion here, someone would like to read it?
Okay, well, I move to accept the CDBG grant to be used for the renovation of the Littleton Community Center and Annex, and to authorize town manager to execute any documents and agreements associated with said grant.
I'll second it.
All right, Dave seconds, any more discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous, Vicky. All right, next is Mimi, all right. Bertha Fire Engine Management and Storage Resolution. I have a resolution to read. Is the last name Houghton or Houghton? Houghton, I thought so. I didn't want to mispronounce his name in the resolution. All right, this is about Bertha, the antique fire engine that's now been out, Bill, in how many parades? 2? 3. Okay.
You want me to just say that
Oh,
the purpose of
Sure,
this
yeah, go for it.
resolution was because we had heard from, at our last meeting, I believe.
oh, from Roger.
Public,
Yeah.
yeah, there were a couple of people that spoke, and there was concern about, what is the select board doing about finding temporary and permanent storage for
Right.
Bertha? And then the maintenance of it, having it in different parades. And between the chair, myself, and the fire chief, I go, I really think that this board needs to take an official position on who is the designated person in charge of this task and the ongoing. So it's generically written for the fire chief, which is Chief Miller right now, but this resolution would carry forward, 10, 15 years from now, until rescinded by this board.
Yeah. All right. All right. A resolution establishing responsibility for the custody, preservation, storage, management, and use of the 1931 American LaFrance fire engine Bertha. Whereas the 1931 American LaFrance fire engine, known as Bertha, is it LaFrance? I don't know, served the town of Littleton for many decades and represents an important part of the history and heritage of the Littleton Fire Department and the community. And whereas after leaving town ownership in 2004, Bertha was subsequently acquired and extensively restored by former interim Fire Chief David Houghton to a condition representative of its original 1931 appearance. And whereas following a public hearing on October 27th, 2025, the Select Board accepted the donation of Bertha from the Eureka Hose Company for historical, ceremonial, community pride purposes. And whereas as a condition of acceptance, the town agreed to provide maintenance to preserve Bertha, to provide heated storage for the life of the vehicle, and to grant Eureka Hose Company the right to repurchase Bertha for $1 should the town determine that no longer wishes to own the vehicle. Whereas the Select Board recognizes that clear responsibility for Bertha's custody, preservation, maintenance, storage, transportation, and use is necessary to protect the vehicle. Ensure that decisions concerning Bertha are made consistently and in the best interest of the town. And whereas because of Bertha's historical connection to the Littleton Fire Department and the specialized knowledge necessary for the care and operation of an antique fire apparatus, the Select Board finds that the fire chief is the appropriate town official to have primary responsibility for the custody and management of Bertha. And whereas the town must secure temporary and permanent, safe, secure, and heated storage for Bertha, consistent with the conditions under which the town accepted the vehicle. Whereas the Select Board requests that the fire chief develop a temporary and permanent storage plan for Bertha to include the feasibility of establishing permanent storage and public display option at the Littleton Opera House. Now therefore be it resolved that the Littleton Fire Chief is hereby designated as a town official having primary responsibility for the custody, preservation, and management of the 1931 American France fire engine known as Bertha. The Fire Chief's responsibilities shall include, but are not limited to, coordinating, overseeing, routine inspection, preventative maintenance, mechanical maintenance and repairs necessary to preserve the vehicle, proper cleaning and preservation of the vehicle and its historical components, safe and secure temporary, permanent heated storage, maintenance of records regarding the vehicle's condition, maintenance, repairs, transportation and operation of the vehicle, participation in parades, ceremonies, community celebrations, educational activities, and other appropriate public events, and reasonable access to and display of Bertha for historical and community purposes. So this is adopted by us today if we make that motion and vote on it. We could discuss it first. I did talk to Chief and he's okay with this. I was like, I called him, I texted him, are you sure you're good with this? He said, yes. So, and it makes sense that it would be under the purview of the fire station and the chief, whoever that is at the time. I know nothing about antique fire engines, but I do like the looks of Bertha. And she's been in a couple parades, and it's pretty impressive that we have a almost 100-year-old. We'll have to celebrate her 100-year birthday in a few years, but any discussion, or would someone like to make a motion to? Oh, Chief, yes.
I would just like to thank Bill Tulip was here.
Yes.
He's done an extensive amount of work and
Absolutely.
continues to do a lot of work around Bertha, fundraising, which we're continuing to do for Bertha, and ongoing maintenance operation. Yeah, he's just kind of been a go-to guy, and this project really would have gone nowhere without him. So
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, you raised a lot of money.
I think the situation here is the Historical Society, okay, would like the truck down there, in the Opera House. But, talking with the chief, you put it down there, and if you do, you're gonna have to drain all the fluids and all that stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's lit. That's why I think it was mentioned in here as the feasibility of doing that.
Yeah.
There may be another location that becomes more apparent, or we might have to just store it in a heated place where it doesn't get seen for now, and
That's the problem. Where do you put it?
Yeah, well, you can't talk me solved today,
It's
The chief will resolve this, I'm confident, so.
yeah, I mean, we've got some temporary storage now, and I think you're right. It's about
Perfect.
developing what's our long-term plan and vision as a community for this antique piece.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of work to be done yet still, and we'll work through it. I'm sure there'll be some ups and downs. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and thanks for mentioning that. Thanks, Bill, for all your work, and the other members of Eureka Host Company. Any other December?
Yeah, I just have a question. If I remember right from the last meeting, I think the gentleman, when Mr. first talked about it, he mentioned Franconia wanted to borrow Bertha, I think, for an event or something, or maybe, okay,
really?
yeah. So what's that possibility of something like that? So that, I know it has to be in a flatbed now to do it, but how would we solve that so that it actually could be loaned out to other surrounding communities?
So that was inaccurate. It was my hope. There was no ask. It was my hope that we could get it to Franconia, and it didn't work out with the trailing aspect. So we have some more work to do with Bertha, really, to look at taking it further distances. Yeah, but there was no ask and whatnot. We just want to try to get it out there to be seen. So
We're getting
we're
drinking.
trying to work through those challenges.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Thanks.
It's like, how could we solve, accomplish that so that it actually can go out of town?
Yeah.
The fire chief also really restricts who can drive that.
Believe me, I've asked. I've asked Bill.
That plays into it as well, right? We have somebody we feel qualified to operate
Yeah,
the historic apparatus.
yeah.
Well, that was 10,000 an hour, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is without saying that Littleton firefighters have driven this piece for almost 100 years, and it's gotten to this point, but yeah, we're certainly cognizant of the challenges of operating the antique apparatus.
Hard shifter. All right, anything else?
That's great.
Let's make an official motion to adopt this resolution.
I move we adopt the resolution as written.
Great, thank you, Ed.
I'll second it.
Dave seconds,
Second
and you're the second guy today? I love it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. All right, all right. Do you mind if I move the budget committee member appointment up just in case you? Do you mind? Is that okay? I don't have to ask for it.
I think the chair has that.
I would like to move up the budget committee member appointment because he's here, and then maybe he wants to stay for the whole meeting, but it's, I just wanted to. So we opened up when Mary Menzies resigned from the rest of her budget committee seat, we put out an ask to the public through our usual channels, web, email blast, paper, and we got a letter from a very qualified person who's here today, and his name is Tom Godfrey. And he moved to the area recently. He bought the Beal house with his wife, and you want to say, no pressure, but if you want to say any words, we're gonna call for an appointment, but if you want to say hi or not.
All I can say is that I'm just delighted to be here. I'm happy to be in Littleton. We searched high and low for a place to live, and we literally went to 200 different towns, and we chose here. And the welcome from the community has been phenomenal. So we're happy to be here, and I'm happy to contribute in any way I can.
Yep.
Good to have you here.
Yep.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
All right, yeah. He has a lot of, you didn't bolster up your, but he's done a lot with financing and budgeting, and he came with a lot of experience. His resume was really impressive, and his LinkedIn profile, and he sent us a good amount of information. So unless people have questions for him or discussion, we officially can appoint him tonight, and he will be ready to go to the quarterly budget meeting if you want to come in 2 days. Any questions for him?
Steer him away in his first week.
I know.
Just vote quick.
Vote quick before you.
I know.
Or change his mind.
Please stay.
I have no questions. I'd make a motion to appoint to the budget committee.
All right, motion to appoint Tom.
Second.
Ed seconds. Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Welcome to the club. Thank you very much for standing up and offering to do it. It's not an easy thing, and we appreciate it. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the purchase policy, and that's Troy. We're reviewing policies, a lot of them, so just one tonight.
So this just continues the annual policy review, and as I communicated to the board in the packet, this policy went through pretty much an overhaul last year. So, and one of the conditions that was put as a change to it is that it would be reviewed annually by the board. But at a really high level, what it does is policy sets out the guidelines for our department heads and some of the boards and committees that make various purchases. And what we did was we established basically 3 different guidelines where we said that if you're making a purchase that's $10,000 and less than 25, then you need to get at least 2 written quotes. If you're going to make a purchase that's $25,000 and up to $50,000, then we want at least 3 written quotes. And we had a lot of discussion about this because we did relax the conditions with these ranges. And a lot of it was from the outcome of COVID, where we found it more and more difficult to get quotes and get people to be interested in putting together responsible proposals for different services and equipment and material. So we didn't get into the official, legal notice in the newspaper, advertisement on website and everything, until you hit that threshold of 50,000 up to 100,000. And that's where it starts to trigger the different levels of what's required. But everything's working really well. It sets out also in here that the department has, they know they can turn to this policy and follow the guidelines. If they have an issue, whether it's an emergency issue or it's very unique, then there's 2 sections at the end of the policy that allows the town manager to waive the conditions. Sometimes there's certain things that we buy that only one vendor can provide to the town. That might be software, might be special equipment like in the police department, some of the equipment we use. The fire department definitely has that same situation. So the waiver will be authorized because of that unique situation.
discussion or questions about it?
I have a question, sorry Troy, I'm gonna be that guy.
It's not your turn to be that guy.
You found one other person that actually reads these policies. Procurement policy is important, right? It protects the department heads, all right? So it's above board, it's the taxpayers' money. So this is not just another policy, it's an important one, all right, to defend procurement decisions that are made. I have a quick question on section 4 on sole source. Is there a standard form or threshold for sole source justification? Something more than my cousin works there, or we've always gone to them? Is it, there's usually has to be demonstrated there's only one qualified vendor, or some other reason, like for example, specialized equipment, maybe only one vendor that can provide that. So I'm just running, is there some guidelines around sole source justification?
So typically what will happen is, as it's noted here, there's on the check request, either the department head will come to me and say, you explain to me that we need to sole source this and you explain why. Or it's kind of an annual purchase and they'll just make the notation on the check request. So as I mentioned earlier, the best example is that we have software that runs the town clerk, the tax collector, and that's the software we have. We're just paying for the annual license renewal. And so we'll make a notation that this is sole source. A good example would be, the auditors that we had here this evening. They've been our auditors for many years. There's no reason that we should, I think, go out to competitive bidding. I think their price is in line with the competitive market, the competitive price right now. So that could be a sole source that I make a discretionary decision on.
With a market check to know, like if you contract with them for 10 years, occasionally you want the town manager to check with a competitor to make sure that they are still offering.
They truly are getting the best price.
Right.
Yeah.
It's easy to fall into inertia.
It is, and there's that point in time when you're like, maybe it's time to really put out our annual audit just to test the market and see where it's at.
Yep.
So we'll look at that.
Okay. Next question is, I'm sure it happens more than a few times that we're unable to get 2 or 3 qualified bidders. All right. So I'm not suggesting changes, but it doesn't clearly address what is done in that case. All right. If you are required to get 3 qualified bidders, you only get 1. It doesn't say you have to rebid it, or is it discretion of the town manager? Sometimes there's just only so many contractors, or sometimes we get bids that don't meet the requests that are in the RFP. They disqualify themselves by not meeting.
And that happens.
Yeah.
That's happening more often lately, where the department head will come to me and say, I couldn't get 3 quotes. I reached out to this person, they won't respond. And so what we'll do is we'll just put a memo to file.
The documents
saying, we reached out to contractor X, Y, and Z, only received this one response. So that way, and the whole of this is one, for the taxpayers to know that we're managing their money as prudently as we can. 2, the auditors are they look at this policy and they do a random check. They randomly will check. Half dozen purchases made throughout the year, just a random check, and they'll catch that stuff. They want to see the documentation that why was there not 3 quotes. So we have our memo saying we reached out to 5 contractors, only received 1.
For us also, just so you're aware, more and more, the equipment we're purchasing is franchised. So while we're buying a brand of equipment, only one person is authorized to sell it in New Hampshire.
You're stuck with that supplier.
So even though we'd love to be able to reach out and be like, hey, whoever, it's a widget, it's an item, like whoever can give us the best price, we have to go through this vendor in order to purchase that.
Well, you document that.
We do.
It protects you as a department head making those decisions to say, here's why I did it. Okay. Last one, again, not a proposed change to this, something to consider for the board next year, and a little bit of a pipe dream. but is joint procurement with other towns. I know that's anathema, heaven forbid we work with another town. It's often tried and often failed. There are some low-hanging fruit, road sand, gravel, occasionally emergency services of working with Franconia, Bethlehem, whatever, getting better. Usually our schedule of purchasing is not going to line up with theirs, but I don't know how often we even try, right? So we operate as a stovepipe in a small town, as do all the other towns. And sometimes there are some advantages to be had by doing collective bidding. Again, I'll call it a pipe dream because it rarely happens, but that's out there as a possibility. All right, and I think of the stuff that's in diesel fuel, road sand, salt. That may be simple. All right, it's harder for a police vehicle where it depends on when it comes up and town meeting, right? But there's always savings if you have a bigger buy, you get more competitive prices.
Yeah, all right, I made a note and we can take a look at that next year.
For next year.
And there could be actually a joint session.
Yeah.
It's worth looking into. I think it's primarily, highway department, but you don't know unless you try.
Yeah, the heating fuel is an interesting thing.
Yeah,
You start
getting deals.
Exactly.
pooling
More.
our demand for heating fuel in 3 different towns, the school, at the school.
You attract more bidders, bigger bidders, and usually better prices.
Because we're so
Not always
small,
in
yeah.
some cases.
And the towns, I feel like I see a lot of the towns getting along, the community, like with our pool, that when that happened right away, Riley was able to reach out to Bethlehem and the kids were still able to swim. Like, I feel like there was a lot of, and certainly the fire department with Franconia and EMS, but I feel like we have a good relationship with our surrounding towns too. So it's an interesting idea. Thanks for bringing it up. I hadn't thought about it.
So no changes. I'm not going to have you perhaps bring it back next meeting. Just ideas, thoughts.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Appreciate the work on it. It's very important.
Yeah, we are 10 policies and I think we've done 7 and we have maybe 2 or 3 more in the fall. So we're trying to review these yearly, some bigger edits now, and probably those will not be as heavily edited, but anything else before? Basically the motion's to approve it.
Okay, I'll make the motion. I move to approve the annual review of the town's purchase policy as written.
Okay,
I'll second that.
Ed second. Beat you to it, Dave. And any other discussion?
I want to make up to Troy for.
Aw, good. All those in favor of adopting the
Sure it
purchase?
feels better.
I do that guy last
You keep
year.
him on
You
your
remember
toes.
that.
You keep him on his toes.
I have
It's
to
good.
change seats pretty soon.
That's what we're supposed to do. It's part of our jobs to keep you on your toes. So we have a first from Paul and Ed seconded. So all in favor of? Aye. Okay. All right, Vicky, that was also unanimous. All right, we just have one more in business. Solid Waste Transportation Service Contract Award. And Troy will be speaking to this.
And we have Mike Chamberlain here as well,
Yeah.
Transfer Station Director. So we had, as you know, you had reviewed, I brought forward the RFP to the board, we reviewed it, we put it out, advertised on website, newspaper, and we did get 2 responses back. We opened those responses publicly at our last meeting for full transparency. And then Mike and I have gone off and reviewed the proposals and come back with a recommendation for the board this evening. Not an easy task whatsoever to review these and try to come up with what we feel is the best way to proceed. There's different approaches by both vendors and the way they presented their numbers. So just as a recap, we were looking for responses. There were 2 different ways that the bidders could present their figures. One was a fixed cost, so everything all inclusive. This is your fixed cost per haul. And the other one was option 2 was a cost with a fuel adjustment. And then there was another option that said, hey, if you can come up with anything that's more efficient and just something we can't think of as a new way of trying to provide a service to the town to transport our waste to the landfill and bring back the empty containers, you know, feel free to offer something else. So Casella offered, they decided to just do the fixed cost, and they offered $624.75. Fixed cost, everything included, and this was for the period in our bid specs. This would, the goal was to get this contract on a calendar year basis. So this would carry us through, the pricing would carry us through to December 31st, 2027. From that point, in the bid proposals, we said, hey, we have retained the right to negotiate for future renewals, or at that point in time, we could go out to bid again. Normando had submitted the option 2, and they had, for, I guess, apples to apples, but, well, they're not apples to apples, because there's normal, here's option 2, which was a cost with a fuel adjustment. So their cost was a base cost of $589 per haul with a fuel adjustment. Once we hit, that cost of $589 was based on, I believe, the fuel being at $5 per gallon. Based on that, if the fuel went up to $5.25 per gallon, it would kick in the adjustment. There's a certain dollar amount that would trigger that adjustment. And then every 25-cent increase in fuel would be an additional cost per haul. So if you looked at today's pricing, I think the diesel fuel, I just did a quick Google.
Yeah, what is
the
it?
diesel fuel is somewhere right around, from what I got back, it was around $5.50 a gallon.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And, yeah, so, again, the $5.89 that were at the time of the proposal was based on diesel fuel being $5 per gallon. So if you would have to, we'd have to adjust the fuel adjustment to get what the actual cost is. So I know, Mike and I looked at this, we didn't really see, when you start factoring in the unknown of where the fuel is going, that unknown number, it makes it very difficult for us to budget. I really do, in municipal budgeting, we like to be, we like fixed, we like predictable. So we know we're kind of basing our estimate on that we're gonna have about 150 loads to the landfill in the next 12 months. And if that worked out, based on the Casella price, that would cost about $93,712. And on the same number of loads with the Normando price, that's at $589 per load, and then I think we calculated another $16.50 on top of that, which would bring it to $605.50 per load, a total estimated cost of $90,825. A savings of $2,887. So very, a little lower than Casella, but you still have that risk factor of where we're at in today's economy of there's probably more likelihood that the fuel is going to increase more than it's going to decrease. So my recommendation to the board is that we do the Casella contract, we lock in that fixed price, it will secure it until December 31st, 27. At that point in time, we can reassess, renegotiate with Casella, see if they can offer something. They might be able to adjust their price because maybe this we know better, you know, a year and a half from now where the actual fuel cost is. Or we decide that we're gonna put it out to bid again. I think if I bid this again, I think I would only have one option. I think I would just bid it as a fixed price. So we can have these different variables. This is a big cost for the town. This is why we're doing this, because we're not just hauling our trash from the town next door.
Right, we're going
We're
further.
going considerable distance, and the hauling cost is gonna be a big part of your budget, as you'll be reviewing here soon. You got your hauling costs and your disposal costs, and both of those are gonna increase every single year, so no doubt.
Yeah.
What's the current tipping fee we pay? Current contract?
The haul cost, or
That's inclusive of the tipping fee, I assume tip fee.
the tip fee's a different,
Tipping fees
it's a
separate.
different company, the landfill.
So this is just the haul, and then we also pay the
They
tipping?
would pay the tipping.
All right, so what's the haul cost currently?
$5.95.
$5.95? Okay.
Did you consider the 3-year option that Normando proposed?
Well, I didn't, because I wasn't,
Didn't ask for it.
I didn't ask for it, and I didn't think it would be, you know, it wasn't fair. And to do that, I think I'd have to disqualify both bidders and rebid it.
So the fixed rate that Normandale provided was just for a 3-year contract, not?
The 615?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think,
I think the way I interpret the response to that is that if we did a 3-year contract, that this fixed rate would be 615 plus with a fuel adjustment.
Right.
But the bid spec didn't even talk, we talked about a period of time from September 1st to December 31st, 27.
we also have Norman Doe in the audience, so if we have a question too for him.
So 615 is the fixed rate for over 3 years plus the fuel
Yeah, because if you read so what is, I think what you've got there is 2 proposals for adjustable rates. You've got one on an annual basis, and you can see how each year that goes up.
Yeah.
And then you got a fixed rate, where it's level funded, but both those proposals subject to the
Fuel.
fuel.
Okay.
Because in the bottom paragraph, right underneath those numbers,
525 it triggers at
It
20%
says-
increments.
it makes a statement about all haul costs are subject to the fuel adjustment.
Yep.
So, I'm just trying to understand the numbers. So we're at 589 for Normandale, 670?
624,
624. So that's like $35.
$35 separate.
$36.
But you got to the 589, and this proposal says it's based on diesel fuel, $5 per gallon.
Right. So it increments up, and I think he actually gave us.
He gave us the increments for,
So it would be somewhere around 625 a gallon where we hit equalization with the Casella rate, right? And I don't know that it's gotten up that high that often, but I guess given everything going on in the world, it's tough to say.
And again, looking at you're talking about right now the best numbers you can do. We have a difference of about almost $2,887. So and then there's some unknown in that because we just don't know where the fuel prices are gonna go. So we're not that far apart, there's unknowns, and then if you look at the fact that we've had a company that's been doing this service for many, many years to us, I don't see there's just not a great amount of savings there to switch the contractor that's been doing this service for us.
was that based on the 550 you said? Or 520, what it is now you said, 550?
580, yeah.
The 90,800 is based on the $5.50 for the diesel? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
On the 580.
And Casella will stay at that price for the entirety of this cycle? They'll stay at the 624, or will they
lock in,
increase
that's
until
a
this
fixed price, no
2027?
added fees for anything.
It only goes to the end of next year.
And then there'll be a whole nother ask when we put it out as an RFP again, or, okay.
What in here, the entirety of what was submitted by the two companies?
Not everything. I've had, it is for Casella. I think Norman Dolly have had some emails.
I just had a question because
submitted.
I see a certificate of insurance from Casella, but I don't see something from Normandale on insurance, through insurance or a COI. That was a bid requirement.
Yeah.
Excuse me, can I speak for a second?
Yeah, once the board, are you good for now, and we'll open it to
Yes.
some public? All right, go ahead. This is very important though.
So we just focus on this first year. The questions are coming up, I'm not getting why nobody's got this all here. Yes, you get to a threshold, if you're way up to 660 a gallon. I don't know how much more this is gonna go up. You got a crystal ball, give me lottery tickets. But the thing is that's a long way to go. I'm not even operating at 550 a gallon right now. 2, there's something else there. There's a double haul. When you haul out of this station, quite often, every week, and I've talked to Mike, I can't speak for him. Historically, you got a second haul at the same time. Your per trip rate goes down. That's even more savings. So I'm not understanding why this is so difficult. All the other towns around here are doing the same thing.
What towns do you haul for right now?
Oh, God. Well, start right here locally. Every town around here except Lisbon. I haul for Whitefield. I haul for over here in Franconia. Those 3 towns over there. So you've got those, and you've got Twin Mountain. They all operate the same thing. They're all getting the same deal. They're not going anywhere.
Can you explain that double second trip again, please?
When Michael probably come in with a different way to explain it. Quite often when you call in for a service with us, he's got not 1 but 2 containers ready to go. We pull those both at the same time.
So like a trash and a building disposal?
It doesn't matter if it's an MSW compactor or the C&D. Franconia right now is on the phone to me. They got 3 containers to haul. So they're actually getting that double haul for the second time around. So there's a hell of a lot of savings in this thing. This is something all the other towns are using because it does save so much money. Yes.
The problem is that it's very difficult. I understand the double haul, utilizing that will result in savings. We just don't know through our process how many times we can do the double haul. So again, it's another variable, it's another unknown. So it's not,
Who makes a
this is not a difficult, I mean, you made a comment about don't understand why it's difficult. For me, it's not difficult. I'm looking at it from a municipal budgeting standpoint when I'm trying to know the best I can my costs. And when I look at the fixed costs versus your cost with a fuel adjustment, my recommendation is go for what you know. We know we're gonna do about 150 loads, and we're just under $3,000 a car. That's not a difficult decision for me, for a company that's been doing our business for over 20, 25 years. I just don't see, that we have no issues with Casella, have had no issues. They've helped us with our containers being down. Mike can rattle off, a lot of things that they've done for him. So for a potential savings that's unknown because we don't know where fuel's going, just under $3,000, it wasn't a difficult decision for me to make.
So I just wanted to ask, if in terms of the double haul, who's making the decision on whether to send 2 or just to call for what? Because if you, and I don't
I
understand.
mean, I think Mike would have
Mike,
to
yeah.
answer that.
So, we kind of, right now for the past 6 months, and we've been doing Littleton residents only, the trash container has been going out every Tuesday, and we kind of schedule that with an open top floor demolition to go with that at the same time.
So 2.
And sometimes the pre-crusher can is kind of once a week to once a week and a half. It's kind of random, but we at least ship out 2 once a week. Sometimes there's 3 loads a week.
So if you send 2, and one of them's at $5.89, and the second one's at $5.65 plus your fuel surcharge, it would normally go versus $6.25 twice for Casella, right?
If you're doing the double haul.
Yeah, and that goes out every week anyway.
Is page 2 of the RFP a representation of the number of loads? Because you add up the municipal and the C and D is 48 loads in 4 months. That's not a whole lot.
Yeah.
We're not doing as much because since we changed the,
I can't imagine there's that many doubles unless it's for convenience. When you have 48 loads over 4 months, right, over 120 days.
all right, Bill?
Yes, I have a question. Barry, so my understanding is your trucks have a trailer, correct?
They're both concepts.
Yeah, both, so.
Doesn't matter whether we use 2 trucks or we use a trailer.
Yeah.
Because Littleton sits, you're not anything but double hauling. Littleton sits on quite the wrong side of the line to use the trailer. It's faster and easier just to let 2 trucks grab it and go.
Okay, so the trailer's not cheaper?
No, you
Yeah,
usually come out of
fuel.
Plymouth, New Hampshire when I'm on double hauling with a trailer. Or Pittsburgh, New Hampshire. I'm up on the There's one other question. There's a COI. Usually that's just a matter, we just issue that when a contract's being issued. That's not a big deal. We do this all the time. We've been in business since 1937.
The COI is typically prior to starting to work.
That's not.
The RFP requires proof of insurance. That was one of the requirements. I may be nitpicking, I'm just.
And tomorrow morning, we have that thing issued to you.
Well, I would say mine, I looked at it more from, because he put the thing in for 3 years. And if you start crunching the numbers for 3 years, it turns into pretty significant savings. Whereas with Casella, if you go for an annual fee increase, it will be either 5% increase or the year-over-year percentage change in the consumer price index for garbage and trash collection, which I had no idea there was such a thing.
Learned a lot.
But apparently it was 3.89% last year. But the funny thing is that whichever is more, so it's going to be at least 5%.
Or
That's what they ask. This is only goes through 2027.
Right. That's why I said mine might be
It's going to
irrelevant.
be rebid next year. Their terms saying if you want to extend it, those are the terms they put out there. That doesn't mean we have to accept.
And I think about this time next year, if we rebid it, we can do it on, I think, a fixed cost basis so that we don't get into the unknown fuel adjustment. It's hard for both these vendors to bid.
Chance, fuel prices have been volatile.
Yeah, I know.
It is
We
very
thought
hard.
we have $5.50 for
I
diesel.
know, and they can't bid out, 3 years, not having a fuel adjustment. That's the only way they can protect themselves.
Well, I see that, again, going back to the straight price and equalization price, if you assume that 625 price level is where you trigger then going over the Casella price. I looked at the USCIA, and in the last 5 years, there's been 5 weekly points where it's been over that price. Just two weekly times over the last 5 years. So, each time you're under 625, you're saving costs. And I know that you don't like the upside, but I think there's a value to being able to play the downside also.
You know, I just think the likelihood, I think that we're in a time right now where the reduction in the cost, the increase is more likely than the reduction. That's my fear. For a short contract period, just over a year, locking in a price, we can put our budget together and revisit this again next year. We've got, this town, I think traditionally, I don't know if we bid this service. Like I said, we've done a long time of doing Casella, so it wasn't until about 3 years ago that Steve Bean, the former transfer station attendant, had put it out to bid. And there was some problems that I had with the award of that bid. I think there was some misinformation, so we rescinded the award, which was Normando, and extended to Casella with the understanding that we would put it out to bid again.
I just think sometimes it's easy, having been in government a lot myself, it's easy because you have a relationship with somebody, you know what you're getting, you know they do you a favor here and there, and it makes it easier for you in your relationship to manage your facility, because you've got somebody that's been there for 25 years. But, like we talked about under the purchase policy, that's not always, the best way to go, and having others participate in this process who have demonstrated it, for the most part, I think, the willingness to be a very affordable comparison is something that we got to consider.
Yeah, and again, I with that small, from the best we can work the numbers, with a $2,800 potential savings that we're looking at if we went with the Normando with the added risk. I just think the relationship that we've had with high quality is just not the risk. If there was $10,000, $12,000 that were there, I would say I think my recommendation could be different here tonight.
Mike, I don't want to put you on the spot, and I won't, but I'm really not going to put you on the spot. Well, maybe I am, maybe I won't ask that question. But are things going well? I'll say that right now, like with how things are going with the halls?
Yeah, haven't had any issues. Scheduling and...
You haven't had issues with scheduling?
No. Usually they're, I usually call them on a Thursday to schedule it for Tuesday. They're usually there like 3:30 in the morning. We'll have the cans swapped out for the following week.
Yep.
Is there, I just look at the fact that we're doing business with somebody locally versus a huge company, because I like to, I don't know. I mean, I think we try to look in the North Country and we're trying to work with local people, so.
That is in our purchase policy.
Well, it's an issue for me.
Casella, I think, actually, the vehicles that they use are stored here in this town, I think.
Yeah, they're parked in Littleton.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
They're probably Littleton residents or local to the region driving the trucks and paying rent to store their trucks wherever they are every night, so.
These decisions are very hard. One thing, just a reminder, it is just for that year and a half or whatever. So whichever choice we make, we get to revisit this again and again. You know what I'm saying? So it's not, it feels so heavy, but I think we get to see it again. So, yeah, Bill.
Are we going out with full loads?
Yes.
I know, great.
We wait until they're full. Yeah, saves money.
And usually the trash container that's full by Saturday night. Sometimes in the 40-yard open top is demo is full every week. Those two go out together.
We've got to make a decision. I wish Lori was still here to ask her about how is the fit for the financing or keeping it, you know, in our budget. What are the extra burden for that? You were saying what's the extra burden? Just having a fixed cost versus a
Well, the fixed cost.
non-stable.
We're gonna budget, if we go with Casella, we're gonna budget 150 loads.
At that price.
At that price. And if we went with the Normando one, I think I'd have to, we're still keeping the 150 low, but I'd have to try to figure out, I'd have to have a little extra money in there just to cover if the fuel prices went up. So, but it's easier to budget on a fixed price.
Yep, Lori?
Just a clarification question. When you calculated the $2,800 in savings, Cory, did that include anything for the double loads?
No.
Okay. That was just price.
Because I don't know.
Okay.
The double load savings is, it'd be a difficult thing to actually really nail down as to what it actually would be. There's no doubt the savings there is something that I think definitely worthwhile revisiting if we bid this out again.
But again, if you're willing to budget a fixed price at the Casella rate, you basically hold that same budget with.
And he comes under.
Yeah, and with a small amount on top of it, a couple grand, really, probably. Because between the second loads and the fuel downside savings, you know, they have to hit 625 to equalize, you could just budget the same amount.
It's tough. I mean, you're talking about budgets here, you're talking about trying to hold a budget, you know, 3% growth or something like that. And you know, if you don't, you know, if you can save some money without affecting the quality of the service, there's your key right there. And not making it harder on everybody involved. Those are kind of the keys to me.
I'll play devil's advocate. I mean, it's very modest savings based on the math and number of loads. It's like maybe 2%. And I think if the transfer station manager has a reliable history with Casella, all right, rather than, you know, I'm not saying that Norman goes any way unqualified, it's just that they've got a long-standing approach. $2,000 seems pretty minimal for the certainty and for the continuity, it seems to me.
Yeah, and even though we don't have to follow recommendations, I guess I'm also piggybacking the recommendation also from our manager of that department was to stick with Casella. So, and you don't have, not putting you on the spot, but with, you know, I mean, they discussed that. So that is, not saying we can't go against their advice. I'm just saying that was for reasons.
I mean, he knows how that station operates.
Right,
And how
more than we do.
operates better than anybody else in the room, so, I mean, that doesn't mean that, like you said, we defer to anything you said, but given the really small delta, when you add up the number of loads over 15 months, to me, it's an easy best value decision. And it's not one that I know enough to decide. You know, I don't know anything about trash hauling. I just know I take my stuff there and it disappears, right?
Magically.
It magically goes away, that's right. So, and I would incline to support Troy's recommendation.
Yeah, I'm
And
kind
I
of
think it's
going
worthy
that
of a
way.
longer discussion when we rebid this about how and who. It'd be tough to do 3 years given the fuel volatility, but it's probably one of the way the board wants to weigh a little bit more on criteria and how we do the RFP.
Maybe so we don't get into this thing where we're looking at fuel, we're asking for a 3-year price. And
There's
so they look more
too many
equal.
moving things in here. You've got a 3-year price, you have adjustable price, you have, so as Troy mentioned, like just clarify the RFP of like, this is what we're bidding to. All right, maybe it wants to be fixed price, or maybe you say give us a base price based on today's fuel and adjustment, but make it consistent, because you're making guesses otherwise. All right? And
We are at war.
well, I mean, the Iran war does not show any signs of ending anytime soon. So at some point, you know, if they don't end it, prices will go up more because there's only so much product that's sitting around.
I think that's part of the question mark, if this was a year where we weren't at war, I don't think we'd ever imagine a time that it would go to 6
That's
something.
right.
But I think if there's any year where we're gonna maybe creep up to a ridiculous amount for fuel, it might be this year. We're gonna see in our municipal budget, you know, too, just for our own fleet of vehicles and such, so.
And this contract is supposed to go into effect in
September 1st.
September 1st.
So we need to make a decision, and it goes for till to 2027, so, oh, this is a toughie.
It'll get you on that, once we get to December 31st, it'll get us on a 12-month
Right.
contract, so we can, if we bid it again, you know, we can say, hey, we'll have that discussion here, and we'll say, what do we want for bids? We want to stick to fixed cost, and we want to ask them to bid for 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years.
Yeah.
And then you can actually, and we can tell them on 150 loads, bid it, and it should match it, you know, then it's really bottom line, it should be.
That's an interesting way to do it, is do it as a not to exceed estimated loads, and they're bidding on a quantity. All right, and with some room, right, we don't want to end up, and then you have a per load after that. Okay.
I think we got one more quick question, and then I think we probably need to make a decision.
Yeah, I just want to touch real quick, so I mean, Mike can kind of sit quietly back here about getting our own truck and stuff. Just in thinking ahead, not for this time around, but the joint purchasing aspect that Ed had mentioned earlier, maybe this is one of those avenues that we look at down the road where we can partner with other municipalities in the purchase of a truck and or something like that, where we're actually doing the work ourselves with employees that we already have. So I know that doesn't solve, I'm not trying to, you know, convolute the problem here, but I'm just saying, you know, maybe looking forward, maybe there's other ways where we can actually, let's take a fresh approach to this rather than just what the same approach has been. So that's all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that idea. But I think we're now on kind of a time, what's it, August 24th, so we have to make a decision. And it might be split, and that's okay if we feel differently, but I guess, I feel like we've talked it out, so we almost just have to look for an emotion and see where it lands at this point. If someone feels confidently enough one way or the other to make a motion, feel free.
Well, I'll take the plunge and maybe go down. I'll make the motion.
Back on your good side again.
I'll make the motion to award the solid waste contract to Casella Waste Management for a period of September 1st, 2026 through December 31st, 2027 for the terms in their bid.
Thanks, Ed. And would anyone want to second that?
I'll second it.
All right, Dave seconds it, and I guess because this is a big topic, any more discussion before we take a vote on this? Okay, we're ready to take a vote. All right, all in favor of awarding Casella that time frame? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed?
No.
No. Okay, so 4-1-0. All right. All right. So, wait. Yes, 4-1-0. Sorry, I was like, okay. We finished with business, now we're on town manager report.
Who opposed it?
Who did what?
I did.
Tails? Okay.
Yep, 4-1-0.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, real quick here. This is your July general fund report, expense report. And it reflects right now, it should reflect that we have 41.67% of the appropriations remaining. We're in a good position with 43.27% remaining. So that puts us at about $207,000 above where we should be, or 1.6% under.
How much? 1.6? Okay.
1.6%. Right. This is your 7 months into the budget. So we're still trending exactly where we're on target. Do bring out that one reference in here that the welfare department is, we only have 38% left. And we've had some personnel issues in there, in that department, so we're gonna start seeing some, obviously, we're way below where we should be. We're heading into the season where people are trying to find housing and electric and heating costs are up. But what we do have is this board's on record of authorizing us to access $50,000 from the expendable trust fund that we had held in reserve for the last 2 years for this exact scenario in case we find ourselves looking at overexpending the approved budget. So we'll keep our eyes on that, keep it posted on how the welfare budget is doing.
Okay.
I just got back from vacation, so I don't have much of a report for you today on other items, other than, obviously, you probably saw that was concrete poured.
Exciting time.
Cottage, so it's starting to really take out shape. And I don't know if a pool assessment report has been shared with the board or not.
Yeah, I got
Has
a
it
peek
been
at
shared with
it.
everyone?
Not with everybody, so, but I got a peek at it as well, just from Riley showing.
So I know the Parks and Rec folks that they're having a meeting, I think September the 14th or 15th.
15th, I believe.
And they'll be reviewing this assessment report. I understand they will create or have created a subcommittee. Maybe at that meeting officially they're creating a subcommittee. And obviously now they have a tool that they can use to try to figure out the next steps.
Yeah.
Can it be fixed in the off-season, or we come to next summer and start to fix it and lose it?
The indoor, some of the indoor components could be worked on off-season,
Yeah.
correct?
So essentially, I've actually not read the report, but getting to the end to find out what the real cost is, it looks like it was about estimated to do a complete renovation, about $2 million.
That's
So I did go to the meeting, Parks and Rec meeting the other night.
for what?
And they did form a committee.
They did, okay.
Yep, and they have, I could be wrong, 9 or 10 members of the community on that committee. And Heidi Hurley is heading up the committee.
Do you have a read on insurance? What kind of insurance money will?
That claim is still pending. We have received feedback back. So if in fact all of this damage, it's really more the filtration system that would be covered, right? And if that can be directly linked to some foreign object, something that came into the system and caused it to fail, then we would have coverage. If it's due to age and just age, then most likely there's no coverage.
That was part of your, oh yeah, you're on your reports, okay.
Yeah. That's all I have. Just-
Is it pertaining to this?
Yeah, I attended the parks, I attended that meeting, so it's in regards to, the insurance claim was denied.
Oh, the Primex, okay.
Correct.
I'm not surprised if that was the standard.
So that's why I wanted to just touch on that, that's all.
Somebody had to throw Matchbox.
I can't imagine they were gonna, yeah, I didn't think they would cover it either, but it was worth a try, and Danny, you did due diligence, and I want to commend Riley and her commissioners and the people, and the townspeople that have kind of come forward to deal with this, and it's been it's an intense topic when something goes down, because everybody cares about things, and I think she's done really well under a lot of stress, so I kind of want to just do a shout out to Riley. Are you good? Should we move on to select board reports? All right, anybody have a select board report? What? Nothing? Dave, are you gonna stay on the board? We didn't scare you away yet?
You haven't scared me away yet, and I didn't know I had to do a report.
You don't, no, you don't. Actually, no, it's if you have something,
long reports.
for instance, things like sometimes.
We're 2.5 hours.
Yeah, we're good. But you're allowed to say like lots of things like we talk about events coming up, say like kind of what I just said about Riley, but anything, you can just bring up, if you want to bring something up, basically. All right, so we're not going to do that. All right, so we have public comment. It's been a long meeting. Obviously, we'll keep it open because I like public comment, but please try to be succinct and keep to 3 minutes. And yes, please, go. Yes, Karen.
A couple of things. I just wanted to comment that I was really very excited to see that the Hero Dogs for the police department is going to move forward. I think that's a very positive thing. And a question, does that also go to the fire department? Are they involved with that at all?
They got their own fire dog.
Well, we're still in the beginning, answer that.
Yes, of course.
We're still in the beginning stage. And once we secure all the funding, then we'll be bringing our proposal to the manager and then from there to the board. But the Hero Dog, the Comfort Dog would be available for the paramedics, firefighters, public safety.
Okay, great. As you know, I've been on the sidewalk kick here, so I'm questioning, is there any more information from the engineering firm from the North Country Council? Mr. Brown, have you heard anything from them?
No, it's still under their review process.
Okay, and the last thing I just want to say, I'm trying to do a sidewalk event, and October is Safety Month, and I've contacted the schools and going to try to do some safety posters and see if I can get some community businesses to post the posters and so forth, and just offer that to the school, and I've talked to the school about that, so just a heads up.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure they'll be happy to do. I remember doing that when I was a kid, making posters for fire safety and stuff. All right, thank you, Karen. December?
Yeah, I had something for myself to talk about, but I just wanted to touch base on the Parks and Rec meeting. I attended the last meeting. I'm one of the volunteers that signed up for the subcommittee. Our first meeting is September 2nd.
Okay.
And then we are putting together, there's a discussion of a two-phase. Basically, the first phase, getting the pool up and running for this next year, which is not the full $2 million projection. Right. And then phase 2 is longevity, because some of the equipment has been estimated to last the next 5 years. Some of it's 5 to 10 years, so there's a lot to discuss, but it's definitely, so there's, we have a subcommittee meeting, and then we're gonna be bringing it to the Parks and Rec commissioners at their next meeting in September. So there's some good movement on that, and there was a lot of people that signed up to be, so I was really glad that people were really excited about the pool. It's a really important, I mean, it was approved in 51 to get it built. It took 18 years to actually build it to 69. So it's something the community loves. So I think it's something we need to work on.
Thank you.
So
One second, guys. 1 second. He's done. One more thing.
Yeah. So this is just for myself personally, but so I'm trying to obtain a New Hampshire State driver's license.
Okay.
And so the Department of Motor Vehicles, in order to prove residency, most of the the documents they require to prove residency are for people living in conventional houses, deeds, leases, mortgages, utility bills, all those types of aspects where people who live in conventional housing have access to. But there's a specific RSA 263-5E, which recognizes that the town clerk can write a letter on the town letterhead that just says, I'm a resident of Littleton, and sign it, and I can bring that one letter to the DMV, and that says that I'm a resident of Littleton. There's another RSA for someone who, for example, wants a non-driver ID that covers that aspect. But again, the town clerk has the authority to write a letter, and it's nothing complicated. It's just on town letterhead. It says, yeah, December Russ is a resident of Littleton, signed, Angie. So, but I asked today and was told that she does not do that. And I was asked for a reason, and I was told she's on vacation this week, but to come back next week, but she just doesn't do it. So that seems rather arbitrary, and because this is a mechanism that essentially is only being used by people who are homeless, so anyone else in conventional housing has a myriad of choices on documents that they could bring to the DMV to prove residency. This is the one piece that is approved by the town, for the town clerk to authorize, to sign. And she's saying that just as a blanket, no, I don't do that. So I'd like the board or the town manager, I don't know if this is a policy question, but this is, maybe I'm, I don't know if I'm the only one that's asked for this, but I'm obviously a town resident, I'm a registered voter. So this isn't like it's not a big report she has to file. There's nothing It's just a letter on the letterhead with her signature. So I'm hoping we can come up to an agreement or something where you can kind of talk it out with the town clerk's office and maybe something can be done about this, because it's not something gonna open up, it's not a floodgate kind of
Right.
thing where hundreds of people are gonna come in, it's just.
Give us so we'll check, give us a chance to check up
Yeah,
on it. It's
no,
the first time I've
I
heard of it,
appreciate
but-
looking into that,
Yeah.
please, because this is something I need a license.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
It's great they're gonna get a license. I was at the DMV today. Okay, Eric?
Just a quick statement, I guess, with that vote on the hauling.
Yeah.
From my experience, I just want to let you know, those decisions, they are really tough, I get it.
Yeah.
Been there with contractors and engineers.
Yeah.
And usually the distance between them is razor thin, and you have to make what you think is the best decision. But the one thing I can tell you is, especially like this year in paving, the paving was awarded to a company that was $42 a ton cheaper than everybody else. When I asked him why you were so cheap, he said, I wanted to be in Littleton. I wasn't letting get away. It's a 15-month contract. We're gonna be bidding it again next year. I think you're gonna see pencils get sharper, and it's gonna be better for Littleton in the long run. The competition's there, people wanna work with the town of Littleton. So, if that helps you guys out, I think you'll see, in the end,
Competitive pricing.
competitive
because-
pricing.
Yeah.
It's
That
like
helps
what
us.
Ed had mentioned. Every once in a while, you gotta put it out, even though you have, and you don't know. I've seen it work both ways, so
Yep. Thanks for that. It's a good reminder, yeah.
people wanna work here.
People do wanna work
People
here.
wanna work here.
It's great. All right, anyone else?
I just, because I know the town clerk will come and knock on my door, but I just want to make sure that the
okay.
public and everyone's aware, the town clerk is an elected official. And that position has been elected in this state since it was incorporated,
Right.
And it's done so intentionally to separate government from.
We can't direct the town clerk.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I wasn't gonna direct her, I just was gonna look.
No, I just want to make sure we're on record,
Yep,
understand, this
yep.
is not a department head that the town manager can,
Oh, right, she's one of the, yeah.
and I don't know if Mr. Russ.
And it could be similar to the issue you raised a few weeks ago. Your
Supervisors?
Your appeal to that is to the Secretary of State. The Select Board does not have authority over the town clerk. Again, they are elected separately with good reason, as a check and balance. We can't tell them, oh, our role is to provide them with office space, and they have to provide, we can't even set their hours.
So who would I'm not trying to think of time, but like oversight wise, who would I see to try, I'm not trying to like have someone force her to do something, but I want to address this issue of why is it, because her decision is kind of arbitrary and it's only affecting a small specific demographic in Littleton. So that's what I'm saying, there's an equal protection.
Did you talk to the town clerk today? Because she's not there, so.
Whoever the other lady
okay.
was.
Yeah, so
that was
she,
there.
right.
But she said that, well, I believe that Angie was actually in the office, but she was on vacation. So I was told that was the situation. I could come back next week and talk to Angela, but it's been I
recommend that you talk to the town clerk face to face.
Okay.
Yeah.
Depending on, and then whatever the outcome of that is, if you're not satisfied, then I think the Secretary of Motor Vehicle, person that's in this state, is in charge of motor vehicle registration, driver's licenses, whatever that title is. I'd make a phone call to that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Department of Motor Vehicles.
Director of Motor Vehicles. It's within safety department.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you for that information.
I haven't read my driver's license in years.
All right, now I will look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Paul? Ed seconds, all in favor? Aye. That was a long meeting.